The players, the personalities who come from around the world to play professional soccer in the United States.
Go, go, USA! Oh, it's incredible!
In a world where some call it football, football, or soccer, they dare to call it foosball. One thinks New York is blue. The other thinks New York is red. Soccer in America from a German perspective. Let them put some sauerkraut on your hot dog and join them for the Schnitzel Boys USA Hour.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, it's nice to be back on a Monday.
Monday night, it's Schnitzel night. We're back. I was just told that we do not have enough space on our server to record this broadcast.
Oh, really?
However, we're going to be on YouTube, so if worst comes to worst, I might have to doctor us on YouTube.
What?
All I know is it's always one technical issue after another. A lot of sound doctoring, a lot of doctoring.
A lot of doctoring.
But we, at the end of the day, we still get it done somehow. Somehow we get out there.
Yeah.
Again, we needed a technical director yesterday. I don't think we'll ever have one. I think we'll just be
it's not that difficult.
It'll be we are imperfect as it shall be. Anywho,
We are committed amateurs.
but you know who had a lot of serious technical difficulties over the summer, way more than us.
Fox Sports,
Fox Sports.
they must have a budget, at least of some sort, right?
Yeah, it's funny. People are just like we all know Fox Sports is bad. We've always known that they've been bad. They're just bad. And then people are like, well, I can't quite put a finger on it. Like you can maybe the commentators are bad. Like there's certain things where you can argue.
Yeah,
But
John
the one
Strong,
thing-
John Strong and Stu Holden are okay.
Yeah, they're fine. And you know, Ian Dark and Landon Donovan were actually fine.
We're actually quite good.
Right.
Because I was poo-pooing them a little bit earlier, and I changed my mind about that. I thought they were a very good combo.
Yeah, we definitely fought over Ian Dark, but Landon Donovan is a good color commentator.
Yeah.
Like, I don't love his voice, a little too softy. Well, you can't change a guy's voice. But his thought, because he's not just a former player, he's also a former coach, and his thoughts are well thought out, I think. And I think he's someone who also offers good respect to the players. And I was into the Ian. But so this is, we can argue this all day, but there's one thing we can't argue is just how Fox Sports just has so many technical glitches. Like, the amount of times I heard hot mics during a promo was almost every broadcast. You know what I mean? And it's like the sound guy needs to turn off your mics. It happens every time. And then on the final, right, the screen froze. They're out of sync
there
for a
were
while.
sync problems. The audio kept dropping in and out. Yeah, the Copa America final. Right.
I switched it to DNA. They didn't have that problem. They were nice and synced up. And then the Uruguay game was nonsense. It wasn't their fault. We can't blame them for that. It was CONMEBOL's fault, and we'll get to CONMEBOL in a second. But still, it was on Fox Sports, and they just spent the whole time being like, sorry about these broadcast images. There's nothing we can do about it. You know, pretty defeatist about it. And then Fox Sports has opened all sorts of other criticism, like how they never criticize anything. Like they, during the Qatar, they were sold by Qatar.
They're
and then
very government, very pro authority.
And during the final, they didn't mention. They're just like, it's delayed. We'll give you an update. They didn't say anything other than that. They're just like, we have no problem.
I mean, they definitely
they
very much bought into this whole like, oh, it's people without tickets,
right?
Which I didn't seem like that was true.
That was only part of it. Where like in order to get the real
I'm not
news,
even sure it was a big part of it. But go ahead.
In order to get real news, you have to find real news people, because Fox isn't going to offer it. You have to go find someone else, CBS Golazo or The Athletic or someone. You got to find those guys for the real stories. I mean, we will talk about the Copa America nonsense. I guess we can talk about it now. But pretty much this episode, it's been a couple of weeks. Bjorn went on a journey. We just yesterday finished the summer of stars.
The summer of soccer. Yeah, and our teams, both of our national teams kind of exited early, so no more post game specials. The post game specials ended early because the US Didn't survive the group stage. Germany made it to the quarters, and that was it. Heartbreaking. I'm still sad about that, but we talked about that sufficiently. But since then, yeah, I was traveling. Spain.
You were
and
in the
Spain
two
and Germany.
countries that mattered, right?
And the two
Spain and Germany, the winner and the hosts.
The winner.
So
that is true. And I even got to see one game in person. I went to see England versus Switzerland in Düsseldorf, and the other quarterfinal the day after the Germany game, and I was still so emotionally spent from the Germany-Spain game. I was like, I'm not even gonna.
right,
I cannot invest. No, I went to the game, but I was like, I can't invest anything.
It's all dead to you, especially.
can't invest any emotion into who wins. I'm just going to be completely.
Plus, you were there with all the
neutral.
dirty English fans.
Well, I was
Germans
actually
and
at the on the Swiss side, the predominantly Swiss end of the stadium.
But you didn't see any English fans outside the stadium?
Oh, there were lots of English. There were lots of English people. There were English fans sitting right next to us on either side. But everybody, I mean, on the going in, I saw two English ladies who were both. It's not always because the bucket hats. The English, they also have those like red and white crosses. So they're from a distance, not always 100% immediately easy to tell if it was an English fan or so these two women were really viciously screaming at each other, and I kind of assumed that one of them was a Swiss fan, but they were both English. But other than that,
what were they yelling? They were yelling at each other?
Just there was a line. I mean, this was
Harry Kane's underperforming. No, he's not underperforming. Harry Kane is our best captain ever. We
Harry
should play
Kane
Ollie
was-
Watkins.
Harry
Yeah.
Kane was definitely underperforming, but.
Was that what they were yelling about, do you think?
No. They had there was something about the line and who was there first, and in Germany actually, as opposed to the Copa America stuff we saw yesterday. In Germany, you have to show your ticket like a half a mile. Well, first of all, they sent me an email telling me which tram stop I had to get off at, based on what section of the stadium I was in. So that's how they
efficient.
did it. And then,
That's efficient,
well,
yeah.
it wasn't efficient because it meant because they had created all these like one-way tracks. So at the end of it, on the way out, we had to go all the way to go back to our shuttle. We had to do this like huge detour around the entire neighborhood. So it wasn't quick, but it was definitely very safe. Never any like crowd issues. But somehow these two ladies, one of them had cut in front of the other, or they were unhappy, and so that they got very rattled. But other than that, I was just gonna say, other than that, it was very pleasant. Everybody was very nice. It's interesting. There was definitely a different vibe. Like the Swiss were there for the game. They were like in their seats early and like very organized about their chanting and support. The English, they're definitely interested in the game, but the drinking is really, really important. Like perhaps more for I guess individually, some people definitely prioritizing the drinking over like even being even being somewhat conscious during for the
Drinking and then fighting.
actual game.
Drinking and fighting. When I think of English fans, I
didn't see any fighting. Like I said, everybody around me was very I'm sure it did. I mean, but
maybe
but
not
overall,
your games specifically, but they were early games.
Yeah. Anyway, everybody I saw was nice and having a good time. Ended up being a very dramatic game too.
Yeah, what happened in that game? Was it a late man? Was that the winner at the 80th minute, the 90th minute? Drew Bellingham?
Well, no, they went into overtime, but then it was a no. That was against Slovenia. That was the late equalizer. Slovenia. But no, against the Swiss, they also went into overtime. And penalties. It went to.
Oh, that's right. And Bukayo Saka scored that confident.
Bukayo Saka
redemption
scored
penalty.
the equalizer because he scored the equalizer and the redemption penalty. So it was feel good for him. The Swiss had taken the lead, and then Bukayo Saka equalized. Yeah, it was a great game. It was just fun to be there. The Düsseldorf Stadium from the outside is really brutalist architecture. I was like, boy, this is kind of rough. It's like just this like gray rectangle box, and
That's not fun.
It's like, wow, this is definitely this is. It's not. It doesn't lift your spirits when you like, get out of the train. You see the thing. You're like, wow. Okay.
It looks like a giant IKEA store.
Yeah. Basically, it's like just a gray kind of shoebox. And but then in the inside, yeah, there you go. That's exactly it. And this view kind of offers a little bit of.
It's too nice to it.
Yeah, exactly, because you see the roof and a little detail. If you're walking, you don't see any of that. You just see.
It looks like a parking garage.
You just see a gray rectangle. But from the inside, it's very intimate. And we didn't have great. I mean, we were pretty high up, but it was still great view, and yeah, it was fun.
So I went to a Copa game. You went to a Euro game. Let's compare. So how much-ish were the tickets-ish?
Oh, I paid €100 per ticket.
And this was, and was this like last row nosebleed? What are we talking here?
It was definitely the upper tier, but it wasn't all the way. I think we were like in the 11th row or something. And we were in the corner. Definitely.
So these are going to be the cheaper tickets.
Yeah, for sure.
Was this bought like on via GoGo, or what's the situation?
No, my brother somehow, this was face value. Somehow, he knew somebody who had them and couldn't use them, and so we just paid. It wasn't like there was no. They were not looking to make any profit.
That's surprising to me. That's similar to me. I paid face value about $100 for my seats. They were also in the upper bowl corner. Same thing. At SoFi, which is, I think, a bigger arena. I think there was about 80,000 people there.
Yeah, this was less. I didn't look it up, but it's probably...
I have it right here. Mercur Arena has a capacity of 55,000 about.
Yeah.
65,000 with standing room, but I don't think they do standing room.
No, not for these, yeah. So, I mean, I got a lot of pleasure out of... Because that was also that very stadium was the site of Bochum's... unlikely relegation comeback. So before the game started, I just got some pleasure out of reminiscing.
So I went to the Copa America, and parking near the stadium cost $75 though. Did you take the train, or what was?
I did not even attempt that. I was completely. My brother, who lives in Düsseldorf,
you guys just drove there. Or?
He said he advised me to not even attempt to drive. So we took, but in the end it was actually quite quick. Like, my parents are also not that far, so we took the train. We took a train to Düsseldorf Airport, and they had a shuttle. They had a shuttle bus from there
to the stadium.
The stadium, yeah. And so on the way there, it was actually very efficient. It took from my parents' house to there. It took less than 45 minutes. It was not bad.
Amazing.
And then, and not crowded. And on the way out, we had, we first had to make this, because we took the wrong exit, and then it was like one way. They were like, oh, no, we were like, oh, we need to go that way. They're like, oh, you can't go back in. So we had to then go all the way, like this crazy detour to get back on the bus. Then I thought all the buses in that particular spot went to the airport. That was not the case. So we got to the wrong bus and ended up in downtown Düsseldorf, with a bunch of English celebrating people on e-scooters, like drunk e-scooter riding in downtown Düsseldorf. And so then we took the train from there. So that all took a little longer, but it's still not bad.
Sounds like a good day. So you had
and
yourself
they include the €100. The €100 includes a 48-hour public transit pass. So
oh, really? That's
on the way there and on the way back, you can go on any. You don't have to worry about dealing with unfamiliar transit ticketing or figuring out what kind of your ticket includes it.
The Copa ticket includes no such thing. I found a random person on Reddit, so I can cut my parking fee in half, and that worked well.
Okay.
And I watched Brazil tie Costa Rica 0-0. Not one of the most exciting games, but overall, it's still a fun time.
But exciting in its own way.
Similar in price, except for the transport situation. But the transport situation is a Germany versus USA thing. It's not a Copa versus
that's
Euro
just
thing.
Europe. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the German trains, when I was there earlier in the year, I experienced it firsthand. They're very hit or miss. And that was one of the big complaints over the summer.
Definitely not what they used to be.
Right.
Is
there a reason for that? Has anyone given you a good reason for that? I can only speculate.
Just, I couldn't tell you. No. I mean, I know there were some
just budget cuts, I guess. Right?
Budget cuts. They had some pretty vicious fights with the train conductor union. They were looking for some more money. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly.
But that's all money. That's just money.
Yeah, in Gelsen, and I mean, yeah, it's unclear. I don't have enough actual information to present.
You think they would bend over backwards to fix that? I mean,
it's like the German. It's the German. It's kind of Germany's whole thing, right? Trains running on time. But
and sometimes it's great. Like I was still impressed sometimes, but then every now and then you're on this platform and trains just don't show up. The platforms get fuller and fuller, and it's packed to the brim. And then the calendar, the schedule is like it's coming, and like actually it's not coming. And it's like, you know what? It's canceled. Wait for the next one. It's just like
there's a lot of delay. Yeah, there's definitely more delays than there used to be. There's also fewer trains in general. Mm-hmm. There used to be. Like I know this just from my parent. Often I go from my parents' house to Frankfurt to fly from there, and that used to be like every hour or something, or like very. Now it's you have to really time it. I also couldn't. We were flying back to New York from Paris because we got a really cheap ticket there, and I thought for sure I could just take the train from it, but there was no way. There's the Eurostar. The only real fast direct train is the Eurostar, which is basically the extension of the channel, the train that goes to London. Which is expensive and totally booked up.
Right. That's
so
crazy.
We couldn't even. There was not even any room. But even if there would have been, it would have been at least like 150, 160 euro a person. And there's 4 of us, so we definitely that would have been a lot of money. So
Ryanair would do that for a fraction of the cost. Or whatever,
well, you can't. I mean, from Düsseldorf, it's too short though. There's not a lot of flights from Düsseldorf to Paris either because it's such a short. So we ended up renting a car. I ended up renting a one-way car to get from my parents' house to Paris.
Was that cheaper? Because one-way rentals
definitely
were also
cheaper. Yeah, it wasn't much. It was still expensive, but it was yeah. Anyway,
you know what it might have to do with?
So the trains are weird.
You know what it might have to do with? Although this is kind of reverse, but I want to say a year or two ago, France passed a law where anything under 4 hours, it's illegal to fly by plane. Or something
interesting.
Like that,
yeah.
To save gas or for environmental law reasons. Mm-hmm. However, then that wouldn't. While saying that, I'm like, but that would then be the opposite case because that means you'd think there'd be more trains then if that was the case.
Yeah, but, it was like it could not be done anyway.
Yeah.
So the trains are not as, although for this particular game experience, because there were some videos from Gelsenkirchen where people were standing on train stations for a long time after games. This was all good. This Düsseldorf situation was great. I mean, the only we made some. They were self-inflicted wounds where we took the wrong exit and took the wrong shuttle, etc. But anyway.
But so how about next question for me? I'm hearing a little bit of an echo of me. If you're hearing on the podcast, I apologize. But
I think you sound good over here.
All right, cool. Maybe it's just me then. Did you see fan zones? Did you see any of those?
I did not go to any fan zones. I had sort of contemplated doing that for the Germany-Spain game. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just didn't. We were also kind of arriving.
Weren't you in Spain for the Germany-Spain
game?
No,
we were just getting in.
Oh.
I was in Spain for the Germany-Denmark game, but then I was in. I got to my parents' house right before, and we could have, there were some places in Mülheim, but it's like these fan zones. They're all, you're all standing. It's like going to a rock show.
Yeah.
And I don't have, my parents are not up for that, and my half of my family is not up for that. So we just went to their house.
And in smaller towns, they kind of miss it anyway. Just give me just tell me what Germany was like during the Euros you were there. Like, give me the general atmosphere. Were people talking about it, or was it very easy to miss?
It was a big deal. I mean, the Denmark game was a real feel-good moment. You could sense, you could sense the excitement. Like that was because the group stage was good, but that was the game that really, because that was an exciting game.
Right? Yeah, it was a great game.
It was. I mean, in the end, it was like 2-0, never in doubt kind of thing. But it was not that. It was a pretty tense. It was a tense game, and so that
real quick,
Yeah.
just to talk about how smart I am, which I'll talk about a few times.
So smart.
I re-listened to our episode before that, like a week before that thing, and I was just like, this weekend when Germany beats Denmark 2-1 in overtime, I just like offered that as a prediction, and I realized that's exactly what happened, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it? It wasn't overtime.
No, it was not overtime. It was 2-0. No.
All right, hold on.
Listen,
Maybe
you're
I'm
still
wrong.
you're
Maybe I'm
still
wrong.
you're still very.
No, they
smart.
had a goal, didn't they?
The Dane? I don't think so.
Right? They had a goal disallowed and we had a goal undisallowed or something. That's where the
Something like
controversy
that.
kind of.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was a feel. Yeah, that was definitely
2-0. You're right. 2-0.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. But
That's definitely where. It was a feel good moment. The people were. Sort of a wave of excitement.
you went to the grocery store and high fived everybody. I mean, what are we talking about?
Well, I was still in Spain for that one, so no, I didn't. I mean, also, but my parents were kind of into it. And my parents are not big soccer people, and so, but they were aware that this was happening, and so yeah, it's like, it was a thing. Everybody was into it. My brother had his whole company was shutting down early for the Spain game, and
Nice.
so yeah, that was a big thing. And then but of course then disappointment was great after the Spain game. Everybody was sad.
So it is sad. However, I think we texted about this. My feelings after that tournament, after the Euros, is like Spain showed up. They were the best team in the tournament, so the best team did win. But they would have beaten anybody in any order. The fact that we had them in the quarters,
they did pretty much beat anybody. I mean,
in descending order.
Right.
The Germany game was their toughest game. France was their second toughest game, and England was their easiest game in the final.
Okay.
Ish. Well, we were the only team that took them in overtime, and we were only eliminated because of a controversial non-call handball.
Yeah, we
penalty.
definitely had a lot of chances.
The French and the English, they lost.
Listen, there's no I'm not doing the Philly Union thing of promoting any asterisk or whatever. They fair and square. I mean, they beat every recent champion there is. They beat Italy. They beat they beat England, France, Germany, Croatia,
and Italy.
Yeah, I said Italy.
But and they were all wins. There's no ties. It was 7 games, 7 wins.
No funny stuff. 7 games, 7 wins. I mean, yeah. So this is, I don't think, perhaps unprecedented. Like, this was one of those tournaments where I was like, this is the team that was clearly the best and deserved to win.
However, Germany, it is my feeling,
it was close.
Was the second best team of the tournament.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
If Spain were on the other side of the bracket, or if we were on the other side of the bracket, which was very realistic. Apparently, if Fulkrug didn't get that late winner, we would have been outside the bracket, I think.
Right.
We would have met them in the final, and that game would have been in the final. Spain probably would still have won. I'm not saying we would have beaten Spain. But what I'm saying, France and England, we would have beaten France and England at the Euros this summer. I do feel that's true.
Yeah. Perhaps. I mean, I don't feel that confident that for sure we're going to beat them, blow them both away. But yeah, I think that might be true.
Spain is the only team this summer that really, like, because we've never really beaten them, at least not competitively in years. And even this summer, I'm just like, God, we're going to have to pull out something special to beat them. And believe it or not, we had just a little bit more possession, which blows my mind against Spain. But yeah, still were not able to do it, unfortunately. But it's one of our better games we've had against them in a long time.
I think game state had a lot to do with that, the possession thing, because we were behind for a lot of it. But
they beat us 6-0 not 2 years ago in the Nations League.
This was a close game for sure. I mean, they were there were a lot of moments that you could think about, like the Kai Havertz chip over that just went over the goal, and the the handball.
A handball. If the interpretation was different.
Phil Krug hitting the post, and
if Tony
and
Rudiger would have jumped there at the end and not let his dude just get an open header.
Yeah,
If that happens,
it was a close game. So it was yeah. So there was a lot to be sad about, but at the same time, yeah, taking nothing away from Spain.
The big question for me is how is Germany in general? And although it is sad we only made the quarters, I liked what I saw. Germany was kind of back to its old self again under Nagelsmann, I think. I think Nagelsmann was a good appointment. He only had, under a year with this team or something like that? Not too much. He only had a few different breaks with this team. And I thought he did good work, and I thought the national team was in pretty dang good shape under him. I thought he turned their fortunes around pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought the way he managed the squad, everybody got a lot of minutes. People were ready to come in when he needed them to, and
the Emre Can starting over Robert Andrich is the one thing where you're allowed to nitpick that. You're like, that was a risk that seemingly failed.
But then
right?
he fixed it immediately at halftime,
Right.
and at that point it was still scoreless. So, but that was the one head scratcher.
And Julian Nagelsmann has announced that he will step down after the 2026 World Cup. And he was signed through to the 2026 World Cup, but he says, and that's that. Which is interesting to me. I'm kind of sad about that. I think.
Why did he give any? I hadn't heard that actually. Did he?
He wants to go back to club coaching. He just said 2026 will be my last. He just said that in an announcement. Okay. It could be, we'll see. Cut to 2 years later, we'll see what happens. But and then that sets up perfectly for who to take over the reins, the German national team.
Who? Jurgen Klopp?
You know it.
He's gonna hang out for 2 years.
Sure. I don't know. All I'm saying is Julian Nagelsmann, because in my mind, Germany has this great tradition of head coaches where they're fatherly like figures and they last forever in the vein of Sepp Herberger and lately Joachim Löw. So I'm like, well, Julian Nagelsmann's so young. I mean, he could ostensibly be the head coach of this team for the next 30 years or something. I don't know. But
if he wanted to, yeah.
If he wanted to.
Yeah.
But if he did well. And I'm like, I'm all about it. Sign me up for that. So for him to be like, I'm going to be done in 2 years. He's like, nope, I'm done in 2 years. I'm going back to club coaching.
He wants to be. I mean, we're going to talk later, right, about what makes a good national team coach.
Right.
And,
yeah. But so that's him. I, for one, would be like, I don't know, we'll see what happens to the World Cup, but I'm excited that Nagelsmann has this team for the next 2 years. We are losing Toni Kroos, Thomas Muller, and although Manuel Neuer has not announced his retirement, I imagine this was his last go around. We'll see. But it was definitely Thomas Muller and Toni Kroos' last go around, and probably the last go around also for maybe an Emre Can or something. Because he's older too,
probably.
right? Oh, is Emre Can?
He's got his probably it. Yeah.
So we'll see what that looks like moving forward. But the next 2 years looking pretty bright under Nagelsmann, I think. And I think if this team if this team stays the way it stays under him, I think we're going to have a more positive World Cup.
There's a bunch of. I mean, Musiala really took a step up. I think he shared the Golden Boot, right? Even
with five other guys. So he's one of 6 guys to win the Golden Boot. The leading scorer of this tournament, own goal. I think own goal beat everybody.
Own goal crushed it.
Can we just talk for a second? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go for it.
No, go ahead.
France. You talk about France. France stumbled up the steps to the semis, right? They were god awful, and they scored no goals, and then they're in the semis. It's like what the? I'm telling you, Germany did not have as easy of a route. Neither did Spain.
Well, it was
France
just Spain.
Stumbled their way through.
It was just Spain that was in our way. Yeah, no, France, but in England too. I mean, England got very.
The Dutch was, I guess, their big challenge, and they got past
lucky,
them.
Yeah. I mean the English. You felt a little bit of a shift in the English team during the Swiss game, but that only lasted for one half. The first half against Holland, the English played really, really well. Mm-hmm. But then they went back to their sort of tentative. I mean, they were behind in every. I mean, you got to give them credit on some level. They were behind in all of their knockout games, and they survived 3 of them. And came back, and they played dramatically better. I mean, the same against Switzerland. They just always played dramatically better when they were behind. Like they were just so tentative and defensive minded in their setup. But then once they would fall behind, they would figure out their balance and be a little bit more aggressive, and that would work well for them. I don't know. I've been. If you want to talk about England for a second, we have.
It's also clear that Harry Kane was carrying some sort of injury, like with his back. I think he had a serious
or he was just tired, or like he did not look like himself. But I would say, I mean, I was very much anti Gareth Southgate. Obviously, we talked about this,
right? But not anymore. We led him to the finals again.
Well, and I've changed my mind a little bit, because what I did on my flight to Paris is I watched, finally, I was in my queue for many months, finally watched the Beckham documentary series.
The one on Netflix?
The one on Netflix, 4 hours about David Beckham. Really great. I really recommend it.
I'm pretty sure I watched it, yeah.
It's very well done. He's kind of, he's a likable guy to me. Him and his wife both seem like
power couple.
Power couple. Yeah, but all things considered, and this documentary obviously is co-produced by them, so it's not like exactly super hard hitting,
right.
it's a friendly
It
celebrates.
film.
But it does really, I mean, anyway, why does this I thought of two things. That sort of pertain to what we sometimes talk about here, and one of them was, it made me feel more positive about Gareth Southgate. One thing that Beckham's first national team coach, Glenn Hoddle, really threw him under the bus and he was not happy with whatever with all the attention he got, and he sort of publicly said that his focus wasn't there. He wasn't focused enough on the team, and
just like Sir Alex did at the same time.
And of course, well, he did it in a little bit of a different way,
right?
But anyway, and that obviously, knowing the British press the way they are, it was brutal. It was brutal for him, and only obviously just one early example of his kind of career-long kind of battle with this. But I was thinking along those lines. I was thinking that Southgate really consistently does a good job of protecting his team against that kind of thing, like in promoting. And Harry Kane, like, definitely was.
He said that in a press conference. He's like, all your criticism is bring it to me. Don't bring any of it to my players. And
so just for him to stand by, I mean, I think Harry Kane obviously wasn't at his best, and he did get subbed early in a lot of games, and that was probably correct. But I think he also did well to not, bench him, or to not. I think because he's the captain, and so I think there's a unity about this group that I think is especially for England. You always say, England have no spirit, and I mean they do historically have this sort of neurotic thing about them, and
they travel very poorly, and B, although they deny this, it's very clear that in that locker room it's a very Man United versus Arsenal versus Chelsea versus Man City players.
I guess so.
Like they just don't get along.
And they're just often.
Or it's been like that in the past, right? And part of the thing Gareth Southgate probably did was get rid of that, and I think we've seen that.
And I think that's a real plus. And I think it also, and I think against that backdrop, I feel like their sort of more conservative setup also serves them well in that regard, like taking a little bit fewer risks and being a little less flashy but more safe. I don't know, watching them more closely made me appreciate it a little bit more, even though objectively I think they did not play that well, and we're kind of lucky to last that long.
Because the strength of the English team is their attacking power.
Well, they just have an incredible. Although I think he did a good job. Also, I feel like, of integrating the veterans and the new. Kobe Mainu was great, and that midfield is strong. Mainu and Rice and Jude
Saka
Bellingham.
has been great. Saka, I thought, had a good tournament.
Saka was very good. Yeah, I mean, if Harry Kane, or if he had just played Ollie Watkins more, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, that was my England take. My other takeaway from that from that documentary, which I was not a big MLS follower in those days, in the Beckham days, so I didn't have any. But what was also interesting to me was the Len Donovan thing,
Right.
about how
They had a beef. They had a beef.
how they had a beef, and Landon basically said to him, for you this is like, this is all like ridiculous, but for me this is, to him, the LA Galaxies, that's like his Man United. Like, he cared very deeply about that team and about the league, and he wanted him to really show up, and I think he brought that across, and I thought that was an interesting thing, because
Bruce fixed all that. When Bruce came in, he fixed all that. That was the first thing he did, was to fix Landon Beckham thing. One of the many great things Bruce did as a coach.
Okay, well,
there was an instance specifically. I don't know if they covered in the documentary, where David Beckham makes $6 million a year, invite everyone to Churrascaria. I don't know. It's been a year, so I've seen the documentary. And, these are players like Alan Gordon, slept on his girlfriend's couch, made $12,000. They were interns. They paid him illegal wages for the most part.
Right.
And invited them all to the Churrascaria, and Land Donovan's like, he better pick up the bill, just stuff like that. And whether he did or not, I don't know. I don't know if he did, but he would invite them to A-list parties with like Will Smith, and Tom Cruise was there and stuff like that. And all these Galaxy players like, Jovan Kirovsky and Chris Klein would just come. And they just didn't have the money to pay for this stuff, or whatever it was.
Yeah, no,
and Landon Donovan was very vocal about that kind of stuff. But the reality is Landon Donovan, he was just a whiny dude. I don't know. I kind of throw shade at Donovan for all that. But that's a side step.
I had a different. I guess I had a different takeaway, and so did Beckham, according to this film anyway, where he was like, that guy. Sort of made me think differently about the league and commit differently. So I don't know. I thought that was
might be fluff. That might be some production fluff.
Well, you're just anti Landon, but anyway, then
when David Beckham went to AC Milan, he criticized him, but then Landon Donovan went to Bayern München. So I don't know. Anywho. It was
all right,
but I get what you're saying. It's the documentary went well, and then the MLS stuff, yeah.
Well, those were my two takeaways that made me think of Southgate differently and of Landon Donovan a little differently. Anyway, that's
Bruce Arena in his last interview. They asked who's the best player ever coached. It's like Robbie Keane. It's like Robbie Keane and David Beckham. You couldn't get them off the field. They were just addicted to the sport. Landon Donovan, on the other hand, you had to bend over backwards just to get him on that field. He was ready to take a break at any moment.
Oh, okay.
So, Bruce knows him well. So, my thoughts on his competitive edge, human being, is based on facts and stuff I do here. But yeah, the funny thing about Beckham is he had this big redemption arc. He got the red card against Argentina in the 98 quarters, right?
And
then he scored that free kick against Greece to get him in 2002. But then any fan will just be like, his redemption arc was he brought England back to the exact level he left them in. They never broke the quarters every time David Beckham played.
Right. Yeah.
So, but going back to Gareth Southgate, they wanted to rip his head. 2 weeks ago, he was clearly on the chopping block. But now they'd be fools to fire him, right? They shouldn't fire him.
I think they're going to keep him probably.
He's the only manager to lead him to 2 finals. Like, my philosophy on coaches, and we talked about this with Bear Helter with Copa America, is if you win or if you have success, you deserve to earn your keep no matter what. So, like, even if they want England to quote-unquote play differently or whatever, they should table that. Gareth Southgate gets another 2 years if he wants him. He might step down because he doesn't want to deal with the press anymore. That might be.
He might take the U.S. job.
Yeah, perhaps we'll talk about that in a bit. Paul Tenorio definitely was shoving that down everyone's throats about how good that would be, the CBS Sports guys were disgusted. Thankfully, Brian McBride, Tony Miola, and Charlie Davies
with the idea of Southgate, as they were disgusted. What's there to be disgusted about?
Because they're smart. I was like, good response, boys. But we'll talk about so that's the Euros. I'm trying to think of any other thoughts on the Euros. Organized well, other than the trains. Germany did well. Germany had a good tournament. The Scottish fans to Germany was a lot of fun. And my sister and her family were actually in Garmisch-Partenkirche when that was happening, and they stayed there, which is a little sort of border town there in the south, and they had the bagpipes playing and stuff. So that was a fun Germany-Scottish little love story over the summer, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
still a lot of the ugly side of the Euros are that the Eastern European nations are still very recent in their wars, while the Western European nations are less recent in their wars. So it's kind of yesterday's news.
For now, yeah.
We're like there was some real animosity between like the Albanians and the Serbians and
Well,
the
yeah,
Georgians and the Turkish.
Those are some pretty fresh wounds. Especially, Yugoslavia. And,
so they fought. Other thing is it's called Turkey now. Is what we've learned.
Yeah, Turkey.
It's not called Turkey anymore. It's also called Czechia, not the Czech Republic anymore.
Yeah.
Something that I guess we'll have to get used to. It made it less American for
It's
me.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, Turkey. I mean, you can.
But why do they make the
Turkey.
change? They just don't want them to be called
I don't
turkeys
know.
anymore. They were sick and tired of the joke.
Oh, the turkey joke? Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was great. I don't know. Do you know how to say? Here's a fun fact for you, Bjorn.
Oh boy.
Do you know how to say Turkey? You know how to say the country of Turkey? No. In English, Turkey is an animal and a country. In Portuguese, the animal turkey. Do you know what the word for turkey is in Portuguese? The animal I'm talking about.
I do not.
It's Peru.
Oh.
It's Peru. So it's the same joke but different country.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun. That's fun for the Portuguese.
And the Peruvians. Maybe the Peruvians will change their name.
It's
Peru.
Peru.
We're Peruvian now. We're Peruvian now.
We're Peru.
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 Okay, but there was another tournament this summer.
Copa America.
Yeah, so I think any other Euro thoughts?
It was a fun contrast between the two.
Oh yeah. Well, real quick, I just want to say thank you, Tony Kroos, and thank you, Thomas Muller. You were great servants for the German national team, and you will be missed but not forgotten. You know, the video, like, you should watch the Thomas Muller video. He has this thing where it's like, I've been here for thank you for the fans, 130 Länderspiele, 50 goals. I won titles with friends. I lost title with friends. You know, it's like all this. It's just this beauty thing where it's just like, he's with the national team since the 2010 cycle or whatever, or 06 cycle even. And he's always been there, and it's been highs and lows. And he's just like, I did my last game last week, and I'm here to say service and thank you. You know, it was nice. And Thomas Muller was a very, very, very influential figure during his entire stint.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
From the Diego Maradona ball boy incident, I don't know if you remember that, where Maradona refused to sit next to him at a press conference at the World Cup because he thought he was a ball boy or something. Typical Maradona nonsense. And Thomas Muller showed him the next day he ain't no ball boy as Germany won 4-0 against Argentina. That week, you know, all up to doing his thing and being the Raumdeuter and Radio Muller and winning the World Cup and just being and he did a good job coming off the bench, just being a locker room guy for this tournament, I think. And so, you know, thank you, Thomas, and thank you, Tony Kroos, and Tony Kroos is one who won six Champions League titles or something. He's one of those dudes who, for whatever reason, like, he doesn't get... You were there in Germany. There's probably a lot of posters of Thomas Muller, but not a lot of posters of Tony Kroos. You know?
Oh, no. He got a lot of play. He was in commercials.
Oh, that's good. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Because for a long time, he usually was not... He didn't get that kind of play. He was sort of like a great player that people recognized, but people like Schreini and Thomas Muller and Kimmich or whatever were more of the faces of the team and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Toni Kroos famously left Bayern München because they refused to pay him the same salary they played Mario Götze. And we've seen those two careers go on very different paths since that moment.
Yeah, for sure.
But thank you to Toni Kroos as well. So yeah, then at the same time we had the Copa America. Bing boing, bing bong, bing boing.
Is that's the official song?
It's in my head.
It's good that you're coming up with it now that it's over.
I love it. This is like the first time, I guess in 2016 they went head to head, but the 2016 edition was a special edition. It wasn't an actual official Copa America. It was like a separate Copa America Centenario event or whatever.
Yes.
And the 2016 event was organized by U.S. Soccer. And the reason it took so long for them to get it back is because CONMEBOL felt kind of screwed out of money in that one. And they're like, we're doing it. We will do it on our terms only, is what they said.
We're keeping all the money.
So they did it this summer. And oh boy, was it a different experience. Oh boy, was that noticeable. That an organization who has never organized sporting events in this country decided to organize a sporting event, and it showed. We got off the field stuff and we got on the field stuff. What do you want to talk about first with Copa?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, On the field stuff, Argentina won. Colombia and Argentina were the two good teams. Brazil was disappointing. The U.S. were disappointing. Jesse Marsch got to gloat.
Uruguay was very good under Bielsa.
Uruguay were you think so?
Yeah, for a tiny country that has a population of 4 million. I mean, I don't know. Their national team was tight.
You can say that about them at all times. Yeah, I mean, they've won World Cups and stuff.
I'm saying
that's not Bielsa's, but I mean, they have a culture for sure. But I thought they could have done.
Uruguay was one of the better teams in the tournament, and they faced against Colombia, who was in better shape, and Colombia won.
Yeah, they were a little disappointing in that game. And then there was chaos after in the stands. The Uruguayan players had to defend their families against Colombian.
It's off-field. We're doing off-field or on-field.
Colombian fans. Well, I mean, how can you separate it? Like when the players do like 50, the on-field stuff became off-field stuff because the players went off the field and had to fight in the stands,
protect their families.
And
then the other good team, Ecuador came in at promising a lot but delivering little. But Venezuela also were a little surprise package. They were eliminated by Canada. But
I was upset that they got. I was like, NYCFC legend Yangel Herrera plays there, and they were going to be my team.
They had that beautiful, beautiful goal against Canada, which Maxime Crepeau was half line for whatever reason. So Canada's big note this summer, and as a New York Red Bulls supporter, I know this note. I know this feeling. I'll explain in a second. But Venezuela got that. They got that big full field goal with an empty net, beautiful to go to overtime and the penalties. Like Canada still won, but Venezuela had a shot. So good on Canada. And Canada played Uruguay in the third place game, and they should have won that game. Canada, because of Jesse Marsch does not know how to finish off games. He always puts them at full force. When he was the New York Red Bulls, his teams play great for 80 minutes, high energy, high press, but in the last 10 minutes, they're tired and they let goals go in. That happens all the time. It's happened at all of his clubs. And now here in Canada, they're at Uruguay. They're playing good soccer. They're probably the better team on the field. At 84th minute, they get a goal. It's 2-1, and it's like, okay, run it to the corner, Fleck. Hold the ball. Slow the time down. Do a sub. Roll around in the field. All the crap. They did none of that. They kept the ball. They kept going at the goal. It's like, no, for crying out loud, soccer 101, they're going to get you. And sure enough, on the counter, through Luis Suarez, they got the equalizer and went to penalties to go beat them in penalties, and they got the third place. Canada had the third place medal in their hand. But in typical Jesse Marsch style, he doesn't know how to close the game out, and his teams tire out before the final whistle and just open for mistakes. It's a tale as old as time. Now, he's a fresh new coach. Hopefully they learn from it. But as a New York Red Bulls fan, I'm like, I've seen this a million times before. And sure enough, it happened again with Canada. But they still had a fourth-place finish. Should have gotten a medal, but they got a fourth-place finish. They tied Uruguay in some of the penalties, unlike a certain other national team I know. And they had a good tournament. And the Colombia and Argentina were the two best teams, but Argentina is just Argentina's just too damn good. I think they also deservedly won the tournament.
Yeah. Although, now of course question marks around Messi. They had close-ups of his super swollen ankle at the end.
Yeah, but who has question marks? Miami, not Argentina.
Yeah.
Why would Argentina care if he's going to play the MLS All-Star game or not? I don't think.
Well, he's 37. Like, if a big injury could be the end. I mean, I don't know. It's not.
Is it that bad? I think it's just a swollen ankle. And I think it's just going to be a month or two. Don't you think?
I don't know. If it's broken, it's not going to be a month. If it's sprained, maybe. But if it's broken, it was very swollen. It was not swollen. No. I mean, no.
He
doctor.
was on his feet during the prize ceremony. He walked fine.
I'm no doctor. Yeah, it's probably I don't know. Yeah, don't want to speculate, but it looked bad, and he was crying. And anyway, I had an observation about these tournaments, and this was true really for both the Euro and the Copa America. It's almost a different sport, right? We've talked about this before, like these national team, because it's so. And I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine who was a tennis person, and I was like, yeah, it's just she's like, well, pressure, pressure is a privilege, and tennis players have pressure. I was like, no, I mean, these guys all have pressure in their day-to-day club lives. It's not like if you're playing in the Prem, you're just kind of like laughing your way to the bank. Like they all, but I don't know. This always means more, and it means more
it's serving
in a way,
their country.
And it means more in a way that's sort of unpredictable. Like you don't really know how you're. Like if there's a penalty kick shootout in the quarterfinal of a Euro or Copa America, and your country's fit, like that's got to feel different than any other penalty this person's ever taken.
You're letting down a whole nation. A nation will remember this penalty forever.
It's
Roberto Baggio, 1994, right? Everyone's going to remember that. But if he misses a penalty for his club game, if he misses a penalty for his club game that
You'll
year,
get over
only
it.
the club fans will remember
and you get more chances. Yeah, these are like career-defining moments, and everybody wants to be there. The players look forward to it, but at the same time, it's also there's a weight to it, and I felt like what I thought was interesting, and I think the intensity was similar in the two tournaments, but it manifested itself. The games felt very different.
Yes, they were.
And I think
the Euro games were much better.
The Euro games, well, in a way, like I think there was more structure. I think that was definitely. I would agree with you. There's the
Euro games are there to play soccer. They're there to play the sport. They're all in agreement that they're going to play soccer today. At the Copa games, in typical South American tradition, they're like, we're going to work the ref. We're going to roll on the field. It's like we're going to use all the dark arts we can to do this 90-minute game, but we're going to do whatever it takes to screw with that ref. And in typical South American vein and CONCACAF, the refs just don't know. They're just not strong enough to do anything about it. It's just part of their culture, too. They're like, yeah, we'll get worked. We'll do our thing. You know what I mean? So the actual soccer being played at a Copa game is less than the actual soccer being played at a Euro game.
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. I had a slightly different, I was going to put it a slightly different way, which is like in the Euro, all this weight that's on sometimes manifests itself in like a little bit of paralysis, like very defense first. The tactical concepts can sometimes be overwhelming, and I find that also. I think in the England-Switzerland game, I thought was fascinating in that sense, watching the two different setups and formations. So it's interesting. That stuff is interesting to me, but at the same time, it's not. It can be a little tedious. Like there's not a lot happening. Whereas in the Copa America, like what you're just there's almost like a WWE. Quality to it. The same sort of tension manifests itself in this like almost frantic hysteria.
It goes
hysteria. It goes to the ref, but also there's just a lot of like headless chicken kind of running and a lot of intensity that's not always well structured. So I thought it was really fascinating how different these intensities sort of manifested in these different cultures. It was cool.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I know, like for my mom, she watched a lot of soccer. It was text. She's just like, these Copa games promise a lot and deliver little. That's what she told me. She's like, I'm always excited to be like, oh, like Colombia versus Uruguay. I forgot what was it. Was it Argentina, Uruguay? And I'm like, that's one of the worst games of soccer I've seen before in my life. Because they're just yelling at the ref all day, and it's like, this is Argentina and Uruguay at a World Cup game. And I do put a lot of blame on the refs because certain refs, like the players aren't stupid. They're being managed, and certain refs manage games bad. Like certain refs, European refs, and there was this great. I just remember once because CONCACAF has the same problem, and one day. CONCACAF and their wisdom brought in a ref from Kazakhstan, a famous ref who's from Kazakhstan. He coached in UEFA. I forgot his name, but he was like one of the big World Cup refs from 5-10 years ago. And it was such a good game. It was so well refed. And he gave the yellow card right away. Like the first kick, he's a yellow card. He's like, you can't do that. That's a foul. And that's an off-the-ball challenge. That's called a yellow card. He gave me a yellow card right away. And that stopped them. They were like, okay, he's going to give us yellows. So they stopped being violent and they started playing soccer for the rest of the game. South American and North American refs, especially like CONCACAF refs and CONMEBOL refs, they just let these players go at each other. They're just like no card, maybe a warning, and they just create this atmosphere of you're allowed to get physical, which makes them more heated, which makes them complain more, which makes them more violent, and it sets this bad precedence through the game. But I guess that's just culture. They've chosen to do that. And I don't know why they can't be stricter about the laws of the game. Like when you two-footed fly into a guy, it's an immediate red card. It's not a warning, It's like, you know what I mean? When you're openly punching someone, I guess Tim Weah did finally get a red card for that. But I just feel that the refs are worse at managing games.
Interesting.
At
I think
Copa.
that's probably true. I think the European refs on average are probably better. But
the South American players understand that part of the culture, and they work the ref. Like, they use that to their advantage. It's like an expectation. You know what I mean? Where, especially for the United States and Canada, we don't play that because we're like Europe Junior. So we keep our games open and flowing and just let the refs screw us over because we don't want to break any rules back at them.
I see.
But
I saw some game. I thought that Uruguay Colombia game was fascinating. I thought that
was pretty good.
I thought the final yesterday
was good.
Really, really good.
When they finally got it going, despite
and
the
it was
Shakira
I thought
show.
the Colombia had a great first half, and
Right.
the Shakira show was a letdown.
But Argentina was a stronger team.
Argentina were in the second half for sure. Colombia had some good chances in the first half, and they were
Right.
they didn't score. So then
Argentina had that goal disallowed due to a slight offside, and they finally got the winner later. I do feel like Colombia were very exciting, and they were an undefeated streak since they missed the last World Cup. And I think if they won tonight, it was going to be, or they won last night, it was going to be the longest unbeaten streak or winning streak in soccer history or something like that. But Argentina broke the streak, and they got their third major title in a row, and the Messi years and Lionel Scaloni years are being praised, and all is right in the world. But yeah, the last night was probably the crescendo of all the off-field brouhaha we've been hearing. We had the game last night with the fans. We have the semifinals we were talking about with the players running in the stands and fighting things. We've had Marcelo Bielsa's epic rant, if you ever heard that.
About the fields,
About the organizers, about the refs
fields,
and the fields.
The organizers, the Americans.
And then Jesse Marsh and his comments about how the USA Uruguay was one of the most biased ref games I've ever seen. He's right. That was one of the worst. Kevin Ortega, obviously I'm a little sensitive because I'm a U.S. fan. He was also the fourth official who gave ridiculously low stoppage time for the Panama game before then or something. Like they should have had way more than 4 minutes of stoppage. And then Kevin Ortega was found to have fixed a Boca Juniors game a year prior. And it just makes you think, in typical CONMEBOL fashion, how did a guy caught fixing games make it on the CONMEBOL refereeing roster?
Well, the same thing happened in the England game, though.
Right, with that guy. Right.
So this is an international problem, I guess.
But in their defense, though, if I'm not mistaken, that was still a pretty good refed game, right? Like it's Felix Zvaja.
I don't think
Felix Zvaja.
I don't think there was any. Yeah, there was no.
We know the story because that's the same guy who was caught. Like he was criticized about that bad Borussia Dortmund call a year ago. He was the fourth official in a fixed match in the third division in 2001 or something, right? And then he turned himself in. Isn't that the story? We should probably get the story specifically.
Yeah.
But the people who were more involved in that scandal have been banned for life. He was found as to not be super duper involved, so I think he was allowed to return after suspension.
Well, Jude Bellingham made the most, right?
Made a big out of
it. Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. But he reffed a good game, right? I don't remember there being any big
I think it was fine.
calls.
Yeah.
Whereas Kevin Ortega was just like, have you? I mean, I've never, he interrupted his own yellow card to give advantage, and then stopped advantage for the other team. Like it's just like, dude, if I didn't know any better, he's being paid. Like that is such a biased series of events. And then they just spent so much time trying to figure out how to make that offside goal onside. They drawed as many crooked lines as they could until they got what they wanted, and then they called the goal offside or onside or whatever. Anyway, and it's not about that. The refereeing overall has been unbalanced, to say the least. The refs just aren't good at managing, and it's very hit and miss with the refs. Let's talk about the facilities. The field turfs were bad. They were bouncy and rough.
Yeah, it didn't have time. Well, they put these. I mean, they put these kind of rectangles or squares of
sod or whatever.
Grass.
No.
And then they just do that a couple days. And in a perfect world, they would have some time to grow together, because it's organic matter. If you water it, it grows. If you have soil but if you just
Dallas
do it like
right,
2 days before, there's not enough time for that.
I think because Dallas tweeted out that they've been growing. They've been growing the field for weeks. Remember those photos? It's like, we're doing it right. We're doing it. Blah, blah, blah. And I want to say the Dallas surface was fine. I don't think there was much of a Dallas surface. It was the Atlanta surface, and I think the Miami surface. It was essentially the other surface. Charlotte surface. It was the other surface because that was done 4 days ahead of time. I know Atlanta particularly was.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's not automatically. We don't know for sure that this is why Messi
broke his foot.
But
it was off the ball.
His ankle or wasn't off the ball. No, we had it. No, it was in the first. This happened in the first half, and then he continued in the second, and then eventually couldn't. But he twisted this. You can see close-ups of this. He really warps his foot. He just lands on it in a weird way. So it's I don't know if that's because of the turf. It's hard to say. But yeah, there were definitely a lot of complaints. And they got to fix that. They got to. I mean, you could see it. You could see it on TV. The lines and the. I mean, we have this sometimes. We have these issues. NYCFC has these issues. In areas of the field where they cover up the infield or whatever when we play.
Right, they cover up the dirt
stadiums.
Yeah.
So it's a similar. Yeah, we're familiar with these.
However,
issues.
The story it's the big. So in 2016, I remember specifically in Seattle. That's what they did. It looked rough. And I'm sure they complained about the surface then. However, this is specifically the big story here. Everyone wants to use this to be like, USA should never host a The USA hosts sports tournaments flawlessly for a billion years. This is the first time we've had issues like this. And it's because it's CONMEBOL's fault.
CONMEBOL, yeah.
Right. U.S. soccer and FIFA
I mean, there's
blameless.
It's going to be a whole different. Yeah. It's going to be done
much better.
It's going to be a whole different. It's going to be a whole different set of people. Yeah.
I am curious how they're going to do it, but the way they must do it is they must, months in advance, after the Super Bowl ends in February, right? They must get rid of the artificial turf and start growing a natural surface or something. I know with SoFi, they also have to widen the field a little bit. I'm very curious how they're going to do that. And the Copa America specifically made the smallest fields possible. I don't know if you saw online. These were much smaller than MLS surfaces, which blows my mind. I don't know why they made them so small. If they did it to match everything to be so small. Well, FIFA's not going to do any of that. And with Atlanta specifically...
some of the football stadiums don't have the width. And
that's
then
what
they
I'm
want
saying.
them all to be
SoFi.
the same. Yeah.
Right. And for the World Cup, SoFi has to get widened. And I'm very curious how that's going to happen. I mean, construction crews are going to break the front row or something. I don't know. But it's going to happen somehow. But they're going to put a lot more effort in the stadiums. That's A. And then... We've heard reports from Felipe Cardenas specifically, and from, I think, Andres Cantor to this too, that CONMEBOL just ignored all the regs. CONCACAF and U.S. Soccer were frozen out, and then they gave recommendations to the CONMEBOL, and CONMEBOL ignored all of them. They were cutting corners. They didn't pay for security, which was the issue in the semifinals and the big issue in the final. They just released a statement today that they followed all recommendations. But CONCACAF is saying they didn't. So it's a he said, she said. And I tend to agree with CONCACAF. I think CONMEBOL is lying. And there was no security. The deal what happened in the semis. Now, I'm curious about your take on this. Because we saw players go in the stands fighting. And that should never be a thing ever. The heck's that all about? But the story later came out was that their families were there. And the Colombian fans were attacking their kids and their elderly mothers and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, and there was no security for them. I think at the Euros, they likely would have been reserved a suite or something, or some box or something like that with maybe a couple security guards. But here at the Copa, they did nothing at all, so they could sell every suite to the highest bidder, because all CONMEBOL did was when they wanted to price gouge. The whole point of CONMEBOL being here was money. They wanted to price gouge everybody left and right. And it's very clear to me that they cut corners in expenses as well. Because then what happened at the final was the gates were open and people were just allowed to come in without showing any tickets or without being checked for security. people brought in bottles and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't understand how that happens. Like, you and me have been to a million sporting events. The gates are closed. There's ticketing lines with a scanner, and you show your ticket. And if you don't have a ticket, it doesn't scan, and you have to leave or something. Right? That's how it always works. For whatever reason, the final, they couldn't pull that off.
Well, they didn't have. I mean, I think. The way I understood it, they had these gates closed didn't have enough gates open early enough, and people just came. There were just too many people too early for them to handle, and it was just not set up. And there was no perimeter at the Euro in Germany. You know, like I said, you had to go. I had to go to a certain entrance with my ticket, and had to. So, you know, they were making sure that people went all over came at the stadium from all sides. You had to show your ticket like a half a mile before you could even get anywhere near there. And those are the things you do. You build a perimeter, and you.
Why couldn't Miami pull it off?
None of that
Super
happened.
Bowls
and then
there
they,
and stuff.
for some reason, had like. Well, I think they said afterwards that they had more police than they did for your regular NFL game.
Yeah, 3 times
I
as
think
much,
people
but that was
just
after
don't
the fact.
come as early, or they don't come in. Right. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't have an answer, but clearly something went wrong. This wasn't about like an onslaught of non-ticketed people trying to force their way in, overwhelming. This wasn't January 6th. This was
What I will say to that, though,
just
Bjorn,
too many just people showing up early, and this being poorly organized.
Very poor. Yeah, you're right. But I will put some blame on the fans, because I don't know if you saw any of the Twitter footage. There are people sneaking into the vents. Like they broke down a brick wall and they snuck in the vents like Die Hard. I'm like, would you ever do something like that, Bjorn?
I saw that too.
Like, I would never have the mentality. Like, would you ever do something like that?
But do we know? No, I definitely wouldn't. But like, do we know that they didn't have tickets? Was this just in response to avoid these incredible lines going in, or I don't know.
Hold on, even if you had tickets, would you do? Even if you had tickets, would you do something like that? The hell is that? You know what I mean?
I would not, but except
I have no excuses for those people. That's just never a thing to do. I don't know why you would. There's a delay, by the way. I'm asking it, then there's a pause. I'm hearing my question again being asked.
To crawl.
I think we're losing you a little bit.
Oh, interesting. I'm hearing you fine. Everything seems normal over here, but I guess you're the recording side. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't.
I mean, it was poorly managed, but also the fans aren't blameless. I mean, they brought people did show up without tickets. People showed up with bottles. I'm just like, I would never, like, why go to a sporting event if you don't have tickets? I don't understand any of that.
Yeah. But I mean, that's why you have a perimeter around the stadium, so you can't even, you shouldn't even be near any kind of vents that you can climb into. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Moral of the story is now it's like negative press.
It was a shit show.
It's a shit show. It's negative press, and I blame CONMEBOL like at least 90%. I know they were cutting corners, and I know they weren't organizing this event properly. I hated how they dealt with tickets. That's my first complaint. I hated how last-minute improvised a lot of these stadiums were. It's my second complaint. And then also the fact they had a Shakira halftime show with some weird cash grab. It's a soccer event. Like, why is there a 25-minute halftime show with Shakira? I mean, it's weird to me. I don't know. It was weird. It's weird.
I like Shakira. I thought that show was underwhelming. Her Super Bowl halftime show was great. Somebody was saying that she's going on tour. Somebody was saying that Messi should organize a 5-against-5 for the intermission.
Right, for her halftime show.
Of her concert. Have a little
crazy event.
Halftime soccer in the Shakira concert.
Yeah, it'll break every venue perimeter.
Shakira will play every halftime show she's offered just to remind the world how PK really fumbled. He really fumbled that.
Yeah. Okay, so the Copa, at the end of the day, the two best teams won.
Show us your slideshow.
It's the last segment. I want to say I am a genius because on Thursday when I made the thumbnail, I had Argentina and Spain winning both games. And I never had to edit that thumbnail because I am a genius. Okay, so our last segment here, it's hot as hell here in LA, and I have my fan and my AC off. So
here we go.
I'm literally covered in sweat.
Yeah, I turned my AC off too, so yeah, let's do it.
So the big talk is now U.S. soccer. It's like, who's our next coach? And it's so funny. It's such a whodunit. When Germany needs a new coach, there's two guys. Is it going to be guy A or guy B? And it's usually guy A. Right? Just like the German coaching search is not, I remember in 2005 when Rudi Völler was fired. That was more of an open. I think they offered to Arsene Wenger and talked about a foreign coach because there was no clear front runner. And then this Jürgen Klinsmann thing happened, which surprised all of us.
They were really looking.
And then that was sort of that. That was usually that's not the case. Usually it's like we got guy A and guy B. For the United States, the whole. For the United States, the
Rudi Völler thing also was surprising.
Yeah, because he replaced Christoph Daum, who was hired but then fired for being a cokehead. Remember that whole story? Christoph Daum was the best Bundesliga trainer, and he was the Bayer Leverkusen coach, and then he was fired because he tested positive for coke. And then Rudi Völler came in, and Rudi Völler did great for his 2002 thing, but it did not extend to the 2004 tournament. But anyway, for the United States, it's different. Because it's whole like, do we need an MLS guy? Do we need a foreign guy? This, boop, bop, beep. There are so many odd choices, and everybody and their mother's throwing stuff in. So I've compiled a list of all the coaches I found that have been rumored to be interested, rumored to be approached, or pitched by a decent journalist like Paul Tenorio or the ESPN guys or the CBS guys or Henry Bushnell. I looked at all the lists. And I compiled a list of 30 names. 30 names. And I realized there's two or three that I'm going to add. So bear with me here. I'm trying to figure out exactly how this works. Let me open up my thing. Google Slides.
This is what you get. This is what you get for sitting and listening through an hour and 12 minutes of our shenanigans. Now we got some real information for you.
Yeah, some real information.
As a reward for your patience.
Reward for your patience. How does that look? Is that it? Hold on.
Look at that. A PowerPoint.
Yeah. All right, I just want to make sure I can get this. Okay. So I'm not going to be able... Okay, so Bjorn, I'm putting a bunch of things up. And then the way we'll do this is we give them a ranking out of 10, right? Or what? We talk about how realistic the target is, A, and then B, we give them a ranking of 1 to 10 of how good we think they'll be with the U.S. men's national team job, right?
Oof. Okay.
Something like that, or what do you? Or just a thumbs up, thumbs down? How should we do this?
Thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down is better. I think. Let's be binary about it.
Let's just, we see these coaches and we'll chat them up for a quick bit. Some pros and cons, we'll move on. Okay, next U.S. coach. First things first.
It's her.
The dream candidate is, of course...
Is that what she's doing? She's dreaming Jürgen Klopp.
Dreaming of Jürgen Klopp. Oh, it's our Klopp.
He already said no.
He already said no. That is correct. I'll be honest with you, though. What do you think, 10 out of 10, though? Of next U.S. coach, 10 out of 10?
Well... Can I go on a little detour here for a second?
Please.
I mean,
that's what this is for. Yes.
The thing is, what makes a good coach? And I think you're right. The U.S. coaching position is unique in that way that it has to be somebody who's familiar with the U.S. system, because the U.S. system is different. It's very different from anywhere else. It's sort of an odd, like the coaching position is almost like a development. Like if you're coaching Germany, you got a great player pool, and if somebody gets picked for the national team, he's already good, and it's just confirmation that that guy is really good. In the US, it's not like that. A lot of like talents, young players, it's almost part like getting to the national team is almost like this, okay, we're going to help you get better kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a different skill set. Anyway, so for somebody at the top level, like Jurgen Klopp, who can basically at this point have any job he wants, the big question is, why would he want to do that? And I think I think you see a version of this in MLS, where European, the Frank de Boer types or whatever, come in with a big attitude and they're like, oh, I've forgotten more about soccer than you guys will ever know. Yeah. And then
they fail.
And then they fail because they don't approach it with the humility and enthusiasm and understanding for the idiosyncrasies and the way that it's not Europe. And I think would be my caveat for all of these big names.
There are two big names,
and I would say 10 out of 10 with the caveat of if he really wants to do it. And
he doesn't. He's already turned it down.
And in this case, we know he does not.
However, just hypothetical. So the reality of him being a coach is like 1 out of 10 at best. But the job he'll do, I totally understand what you're saying. But I think ideally he would be like the perfect coach of all the next 30 candidates we're sharing. I think he's rightfully number one, first guy offered. I believe. Because Jurgen Klopp is a top-level manager where, yes, they deal with big money and boop-boop-pa-pa-pa, and the players are already developed. But Jurgen Klopp specifically did it on a budget relative to his clubs with Dortmund and with Liverpool. Like with Liverpool, he was up against Man City, and he did it at a sixth of the budget. And Jurgen Klopp's specialty is making players amazing who aren't amazing anywhere else. Mohamed Salah was the world's best player under him. Sadio Mane was the world's best player under him. From Egypt and, forgive me, where's Sadio Mane from? Algeria? No.
Senegal?
Senegal. Name any other Egyptian or Senegalese player. They don't have footballing traditions like the big teams do. Like they're more like the United States, where maybe they have a player come and go every now and then. And under him, the players like him, them excelled. So I understand why Jurgen Klopp is of the big-name managers. He's like number one. However, he turned it down. And I guess what I learned from a German journalist, when he was at Liverpool, he made $55 million a year.
Wow, all right.
Did you realize that's how much he got paid?
No, I did not know that.
That blew my mind. I thought high-paid managers got paid 10, 15, right? No. Jurgen Klopp made $55 million a year. No. $25 million from Liverpool and $30 million from his marketing tie-ins or whatever.
Okay.
And it's like the United States has a $45 million surplus, and I thought $20 million would be a great offer for someone like going for 2 years, right? Or maybe even $40 million for like 2 years. That's a huge pay cut. So he's said no to a job that paid him $55 million a year. To offer him a salary for him to reconsider his retirement must be at least twice that, right? Who the hell has $100 million a year?
But
the reason I bring that up is this. I would feel irresponsible taking $200 million US in a nation that's biggest problem is our pay-to-play youth programs. I would have a problem if U.S. Soccer took $200 million cash and gave it to Jurgen Klopp to be our head coach for 1 year. I would not feel right about that. I'd be like, if you can have $200 million cash, that should go entirely to youth programs in the inner cities. That's sort of where I'm coming with that. Okay. I would find that just be irresponsible.
There's also the equal pay situation, right? They have some
That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
No?
Jeff Carlisle came out and said that the women and the men's head coach contracts are entirely separate. They can negotiate whatever they want.
I think legally, they could, but I think it also...
Oh, you mean as PR-wise or something?
Yeah, also... It's a little weird if
you
would be like, we're paying him $1 billion.
Right.
if you're talking about those kinds of sums. The flip side of that argument would be like, clearly he has... other priorities than just money, or else he would not have walked away from this enormous paycheck on his own accord. So it's not like, I think...
Yeah, he has $300 million in the bank, so who cares?
It's not like, I think if he was into it, I think he wouldn't be like, oh, you can only... pay me
salary demanding.
Yeah, I don't know.
The DFB isn't going to pay.
Obviously, I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't. No Bundesliga team would either.
Probably
the economics just aren't there. So, he's got to be prepared. Whatever he does next, he's got to be prepared to get paid a little bit less, probably, unless he wants to go to Saudi Arabia or something. But yeah, anyway,
which is very real. So that's Jurgen Klopp,
yeah.
dream candidate.
Whatever,
He already said no. He was
have to-
offered.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it.
He was offered the job, which is a good sign. And real quick, to preface this, by the way, too, Matt Crocker has come out, and in his statement, he has made it very clear that when he re-signed Greg, he was fresh at the job, and he, quote-unquote, didn't have the full scope of what was
Didn't know what he was
going
doing.
on. Remember, he essentially admitted that. And he says, we are searching for a serial winner. That's what, a serial winner. And the search is also very clearly international, not just domestic. And there's been a lot of... Anyway, so just to let you know, those are the caveats. Serial winner...
If we're just looking at...
Elite.
Serial winner elite, yeah.
Okay. So I have grouped all these potential coaches in categories. We've got domestic MLS, domestic
okay.
former U.S. staffers, the European Americans, the Germans, the French, the Brits, the Argentinians, and then the other.
Let's get into it.
Okay,
all
right.
I love
Let's
it.
start with domestic MLS. Okay,
Which is basically Berhalter, the sequel.
exactly. Okay,
Steve
number
Cherundolo,
one, Steve Cherundolo. Yeah.
who looked like in his news conference he had this sheepish grin, like he already had the job. When he
Just
was
like Jesse
denying,
Marsh? Just
when
like
he
Jesse
was
Marsh already had the job?
denying, when he was denying when he was saying how he was fully committed to being the coach of LAFC and he was coming to training every day and he has this grin on his face as if he already knew. So, but the Twitter sphere was not happy with this
No, neither am I. Neither am I. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just first things first. The realistic. What's the word I'm looking? The realability.
Oh, he's gonna do it. If they give it to him, he'll
Right.
do it.
That's pretty high.
Yeah.
That's close to 100%.
High, very high.
Now let's talk reality. He becomes the U.S. head coach. How perfect of a fit is that? Do you think, Bjorn?
I mean, I think
Or unperfect?
I think people are gonna hate it. I hate him as much.
Don't
as
worry
they
about the
hate-
people. We're not here to talk about the Twitter sphere. We're here to talk. You and I. The game is Bjorn and I run U.S. Soccer. We're running the interviews, and then we have to talk out our candidates and see who the best candidates are. Don't worry about the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine.
So fine. What is that? 5 out of 10? 6 out of 10?
Well, what's Greg?
Would you describe Steve Cherundolo as a serial winner?
No.
Me neither. He's won one MLS title in his entire coaching career. It's the only title he's won. He failed.
But
at
I
Vegas,
also don't think.
failed. At
I guess.
Stuttgart.
I guess that
Failed
wouldn't be
on all-
my. That wouldn't be my. I wouldn't say that would be my main. The serial winner thing. That wouldn't be my main criterion for picking somebody. But okay, if that's what you want, he's not that.
Well, I think what you're alluding to, Steve Cherundolo is sort of just a lateral move from Greg almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
like he's a bombastic.
But I don't think that's bad.
Coach.
I thought Greg was fine. So I don't think.
Don't even
so
say
I
that.
don't think.
Steve Cherundolo, I think, is more attacking. I would be more excited with Steve Cherundolo than Greg. He does have a title. He does seem to be a little bit more open and flexible with the tactics. He does seem to set his teams up to attack a little better. But Steve Cherundolo also dealt with a much bigger budget in LAFC. They're like the
But
big,
he still has good like development credentials and all.
right.
That.
And Steve Cherundolo was the assistant coach of the Germany U15s, and he spent time at Hannover.
Yeah,
and
he's got
Stuttgart.
some youth. He's got some
Right.
youth coach experience. By the way, all of the 4 finalists. Well, 3 of the 4 finalist coaches at the Copa and the Euro are all youth coaches.
Right.
And
wait a minute, say that again. 3 of the 4 finalists of the Euros and the Copa.
The Euros and the Copa. I'm talking about Argentina, Colombia, Spain, and England. 3 of the 4 coaches are youth coaches.
They were youth coaches.
Were
They
youth
grew up-
coaches, and that's kind of their. And the only person that doesn't apply to is the Colombian coach, and he was an assistant for a long time. He also had a. So none of these people have successful winning club backgrounds.
And that kind of leads to another discussion, which we'll talk about later, maybe with Joachim Löw and Gareth Southgate, kind of what we talked about earlier. And also that leads to another discussion about, like, you got club coaches, or you can hire coaches from within your system, which I have a couple of pitches. That's also
and that used to be in Germany.
Southgate comes from.
Used to be in Germany that used to be the thing. You have like the guy, the former assistant, then gets the job.
Or the
Jupp
U20
Derval,
coach.
Helmut Schön's assistant. Jupp Derval got the job. Bertie Vogts was Jupp's assistant, and then he got the job. That was like, that's how that worked. Anyway,
we had that happen once. We had that happen once too and it was a disaster, but with what's his face, the 98 guy, Bora's old assistant. Anyway, okay. So domestic MLS, that's Steven Cherundolo. My final thoughts on Steven Cherundolo is I would be excited for him after a couple more titles. I'd love for him to get a little more club
get some more. Yeah, so in the next couple weeks, can you get a couple titles?
Right. Jim Curtin. So now here we go. So Jim Curtin, the Philadelphia Union coach. How would you feel about this? Let's say he was announced as U.S. head coach tomorrow.
Well, he said previously that he'd be happy to be an assistant. And
under Jesse Marsch, yeah.
That would probably be good.
Which seems like a missed opportunity at this point. That seems like that probably is what should have happened a year ago. But it didn't happen. Jesse's gone and Jim's with Philly. What are your thoughts on Jim Curtin being the next head coach?
I mean, I think he's like, if I was hiring a coach for my team, I would pick Greg over him for sure.
Like your club, like for NYCFC, you're saying?
For example, or for Brooklyn FC. I don't know. for my
so if you felt
for my imaginary
Jim Curtin,
team.
So between Jim Curtin and Greg Berhalter for the U.S. job for the next 2 years, you'd bring Greg.
I would pick. What? No, I mean, clearly he should. Like, that's not happening. But if you're asking me who's the better coach, I'd say Greg.
Between the two, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So the thing with Jim is Jim Curtin has no MLS Cups either. He's been the head coach of Philly for years. Wow. They're a smaller club. He's good at bringing players through, sure. He has a couple supporter shields. I think at least one or two. I don't.
Supporter shield? I don't think so.
Really?
Philly?
Didn't they win a supporter shield?
Philly a supporter shield? I don't believe so.
Let me look that up actually. But Jim Curtin is the head of one club, and my problem with that is, like we saw with Jason Kreis, who you're very familiar with, like he was great at Real Salt Lake, quote unquote. But then when he went to all these other clubs, it wasn't working. However, Garth Lagerwey, on the other hand, when he left Real Salt Lake and went to all these other clubs, the success tended to follow Garth Lagerwey.
He did very well, yeah.
It didn't follow Jason Kreis. So if you look at Jim Curtin, and let's say Jim Curtin goes to another club, and Ernst Tana or Ernie Stewart, they go to another club, who does the success follow? Does it follow Jim, or does it follow Ernst Tana? You know what I mean? Philadelphia Union is very well run, I feel, from a sporting perspective. And we've seen Ernie Stewart leave Philly to go to USA and then to go to PSV. And PSV just won the title under Ernie Stewart. Under his. So we don't really. Jim is a one-club guy, and we don't know how good he's been. Honors, coaching, Supporter Shield 2020.
Well, I think the appetite.
They won the Supporter Shield, but they were the U.S. Open Cup runners-up. They were the U.S. Open Cup runners-up 3 times and the MLS Cup runner-up once under him. Amazing. So a lot of silver medals, a lot of success with Philly.
I think the appetite right now is for somebody a little bit bigger.
Did that change?
Bigger stature than Jim Curtin.
Yeah, so I would say very gettable, but not exciting. I think a lateral move.
Yeah.
All right, and last but not least, the Mystics.
I would say a step down. I would say a step down.
Over Greg.
Wilfried Nancy, everybody's favorite coach right now. The Xavi Alonso of MLS.
Now, this is one of those things where some of these coaches do fit into multiple categories. I could have also listed him under the Frenchman category, but I figured MLS domestic fit his. I could have. Half of these coaches are bald. I could have had a whole bald category, but Wilfried Nancy's biggest criticism. Wilfried Nancy's biggest criticism is that he's a club coach and he's really leaning on a very specific system, and that's the kind of stuff that does not excel well in the national coaching realm, at least not for mid-level teams. Like for countries like Spain and stuff, you can implement a system because they just have a culture of how they play. But for a team, that's kind of what Greg did for 6 years, and it just never quite took for our player pool. So that would be maybe his one criticism is he's like a club coach. My response to that,
I don't agree with that characterization, but okay. But
my response to that,
we won't get into it now. Again.
My response to that is that he's just a smart coach, and he's not an idiot. He's doing a club job. He's done 2 in a row. He was great at Montreal. He's great at Columbus. If he does the national team job, he's not an idiot. He knows it's a different type of job, and he's a good head coach. I think he'd do fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the U.S. national it's a specific thing. It's hard to say, but yeah, he seems great, and he's everybody's favorite coach right now. So, sure, I endorse.
Yeah, if you had to pick domestic MLS, Wilfred Nancy would be my favorite choice, I think.
Sure.
Because he's proven it at multiple clubs. Although he's French originally, he's two club, but he's also a huge college coach before that. And
right.
Although he's French originally, he moved to Quebec when he was like 20. I think he went to college in Quebec. And he's been in Canada, and he's an MLS guy. He's from the domestic system. So his understanding of the system is very clear. That's where he
does he want to do it? We don't know.
Apparently no. I think the rumors are no. But it's a high-paying job. It's a good. He wants to go to Europe next. But the U.S. is a great way to go to Europe. That's what happened with Bob, and it could have happened with Bruce and stuff.
With Bob?
So those are yeah, he coached in Europe afterwards.
Like the 3 months at Swansea, you're going to count?
No. After the U.S. national team, Bob coached in Norway for 2 years, France for a year, Egypt for a year, and then 3 months.
Wonderful. Okay, great.
You got to bring facts, baby. And then Bruce turned down Denmark after the 06 World Cup. What I'm saying is when the U.S.
Bob Bradley
and Greg is about to go to Holland or something, I'm sure. And when you're done with the U.S. job, the European clubs do start opening up for you in a way they don't after you do MLS. So what I'm saying is if Wilfred...
Okay. All right.
Yeah, give me I just gave you an example of it happening every time.
Well, for
Dave
Bruce
Saracen
Arena,
now coaches in Israel. Yeah, he turned it down. He said no, thank you. He turned it down.
Okay.
He was offered the head coaching position at Brøndby. You know that?
I don't think of Bob Bradley as a successful European coach either, but okay.
I didn't say successful.
I mean,
I said he wants to go. If Wilfred Nancy wants to go coach in France, he can do it straight from the Columbus Crew, or he can do it after a national team stint, whereas at the World Cup. The second scenario is more realistic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
Former
U.S. staffers. Yeah, this is the more.
Like I said, some national teams run
the classic way. Yeah, this is how all of the currently successful, or a large majority of the currently successful national teams find their people.
Right.
In the youth, promoting assistants and youth coaches. Right. So Tab Ramos,
former U20 coach, former assistant to the Jordan Klinsmann,
is the first name that comes to mind. Would anybody jump out of their seat? Not really.
I wouldn't. People love Tab. They pitch Tab a lot. I don't get it. His U20s were okay at best, I thought. I didn't follow them super closely, but I remember they were doing really well in a tournament a couple years ago. So I watched the quarterfinals between the Venezuelan U20s and our U20s, and we were terrible. We were just like, we couldn't hold the ball. It was just bad. I'm like, this is the team everyone was gaga over? And then since then, Tab Ramos became the head coach at Houston Dynamo, very forgettably, right?
Yeah,
and
that didn't work out, really.
I think he was the head coach somewhere else, too, wasn't he? I think he's the head coach of Hartford United now or something like that. All I know is that people love Tab. They pitch Tab a lot, and Tab, in my opinion, has done nothing in his coaching career to prove that, yeah, he was a Hartford Athletic, and now he's an assistant at New England Revolution under Caleb Porter. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think this will not appease the fan base.
Yeah, well, let's pretend that the fan base has nothing to do with it. Do you think this is a smart choice? Do you think it's like Tab is the best choice for the next 2 years? What do you think?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither. Hugo Perez.
Yeah, I was thinking about him.
Yeah, a lot of people pitch him. They like him. He is. He had a falling out with U.S. Soccer.
I was going to say he's got beef, right? I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, but he can fix that. It's just stuff. He worked at U.S. Soccer for many years.
He really is the because often you see this, right, with Scaloni currently in Argentina. The people who have coached those players when they were youths, and then kind of follow them through and there's just a comfort with that. And he has, right, he coached Pulisic and he coached all those guys. So he is the he would be a good candidate in my opinion. And he's done well. He's done well with El Salvador. He has experience. He's got relevant experience, CONCACAF experience. He knows these people. I think he gets a thumbs up for me.
You see here, he was the El Salvador assistant, U23, and the senior coach, and he did a big thing bringing in a lot of Salvadoran Americans, and his big coming out party was his work with the El Salvador team. However, and although they did well, El Salvador I think finished last in the Hex or something, or second to last. They didn't get to the World Cup.
It's El Salvador.
Yeah.
So
thumbs up for you.
He's a thumbs up for me. But you think the beef is? I don't think U.S. soccer is good at mending beefs historically. Matt
Crocker and Guguchi and Yewu, they were hired within the last year.
They have no beef with
his beef is with. The U.S. soccer staff turns over every 2 years, so I think his beef is with the people aren't there anymore. Okay. I don't know what it is. All I know is that Hugo Perez, like U.S. soccer historically, has a very anti-Latino sort of vibe to them. I think has been criticized from guys like Kurt Gomez, and that's why a lot of Mexican Americans choose Mexico as opposed to United and stuff. Mm. And Hugo Perez, I think, was like the one exception, but he left when that was too much for him. I think is kind of the beef. Someone with better in the comments or something, someone with more specific stories. All I know is that Hugo Perez worked for a long time, they left, so he's on. So Hugo Perez, thumbs up for you. I think we should shoot higher. But I'm curious to see how he does it. He was very competent.
He fits the profile of many other type of
national team
successful national team coaches.
All right, so that's that. Hugo Perez. Okay, now we have the European Americans category.
Let's go. This is really great. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
Pellegrino Matarazzo. Does he have any interest?
He's American. I don't. He's very happy at Hoffenheim. I don't think he wants to leave Hoffenheim right now. But but people are talking about him. He's the kind of guy. He's an American, so he's from the country. But as a soccer professional, he's a German Bundesliga guy. Mm-hmm. He understands the German level, which is a very high level, one of the highest levels in the world. And was it fair to say he excels? Is that too much of a word? In the German system right now, he's in his second senior coaching job.
I think excels is.
Yeah, maybe excels is too much.
Is a stretch,
but he's doing it.
He's a working coach in the Bundesliga.
A working coach
for a number of years.
Yeah, Jesse Marsch couldn't break 2 months or whatever.
Right.
So
he lasted longer than that, but no, definitely, you're right.
Pellegrino's 2 teams, Stuttgart. Stuttgart got way better after he left. And now Hoffenheim. And Hoffenheim are doing fine under him. They're doing fine under him.
Fine. Yeah. True.
But, so he has no titles. I don't there's
definitely not a serial winner.
Right.
Definitely no institutional history.
Right.
Of any relevance.
I think his brother works for U.S. Soccer, by the way, so that might be an unfortunate parallel.
we love that, right?
I don't know if we do love that. I don't think we do love that.
Well, I don't know if we love that, but U.S. Soccer seems to love that.
But let's say he was announced. So the gettability is on the lower end. I'd put it mid. I wouldn't say it's impossible.
Oh, I think he would do it.
Yeah, right? If they called him and offered it to him?
Yeah.
So his gettability is there, but let's pretend it happened tomorrow. Do you think that'd be a good appointment?
I think it's total question mark. I think it's extremely. I don't think we have I don't think I have anything to base an opinion on. I don't know if he. I also don't know. Does he even follow? Does he know the player pool? Is he really?
Yeah, but sure, but yeah, he can. I think he does, but also you can learn that, right? How long does it take you to figure out the player pool?
If he's into it, yeah, he definitely could. Yeah. It's a big question mark. I don't know. I think I think he is the kind of person that a lot of the knee-jerk people are looking for. There's definitely an appetite for a European person,
right?
For an international person. So I think, but he ironically has so little American experience, right?
Right, I think almost none.
I think the
he's from the college game. He was a player.
But of course, this person that really people want is like a a former MLS coach who made it big in Europe, and this is just not a thing. Like those people don't.
There's
exist.
only two of them. There's only two.
There's
of them.
only
or a handful of them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So
I guess Frank de Boer might follow that category then, but I don't know if he's necessarily successful.
He hasn't been successful anyway.
I have a few of them on the list, so no.
All right. So no. Last
thing.
Question mark. No idea.
No idea. What I will say, Pellegrino is from the college game. He played for Columbia, and then he went to Germany as a young man, and he earned all of his stripes strictly off being a coach's mind. He's just a coach. Like I guess he was a player, I think, at lower level league for a while. Yeah. But then I think the story is he was in the same coaching badge class with Nagelsmann, I think. Julian Nagelsmann, I believe. And they were very close, and they were like brothers because they worked together at Hoffenheim then after that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's just one of the dudes who's like from that class of coaches, and he's just a whiz. He's like a whiz. I don't know how to say. He's like a coaching. He earned his coach's badges as a young American with no playing experience or very little.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I think he's yeah.
All right. I think he'd be fine. I wouldn't be against, but you're right. He's got no titles, so it's a different type of job.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he'd probably be fine, but definitely, if to me, a lateral would also be probably a lateral move. Definitely not an upgrade necessarily. Although you never know. Who knows?
I would be more excited by Pellegrino than Greg. I think Pellegrino is also not obsessed with his systems and stuff.
Everybody has tired of Greg, but
what I'm saying is when Pellegrino was interviewed last year for his plan versus Bayern versus plan versus Bochum or something, he's like, every club gets a new plan. It's like that's not how I coach. He's like I look at my players, I look at who we're playing, and I go from there. And I was like, that's exactly the mentality you need to be a national team coach, right?
All right.
He doesn't do the whole I position play every game. All right. Other European American, David Wagner, a.k.a. David Wagner. He has a U.S. passport. He played for the U.S. in the 90s. The Canadians complained because they felt he was not an American. He was not American enough. They challenged his visa status. I believe he was cleared, so he has a U.S. passport. But he is a German dude. He was Jurgen Klopp's right-hand man, like how Pellegrino is with Nagelsmann. Yeah. David Wagner is with Klopp. But so he coached Norwich, he coached Huddersfield, he coached in Switzerland, he coached Schalke. He is a working European top-flight coach.
But even compared to Pellegrino, more up and down, right? Like his
achievement was his coming out party was taking Huddersfield Town to the Prem. Okay. He won the promotion that year. I don't know if they won the championship.
And then it all went up in flames. Yeah.
Right. And then he went to Schalke after that, and then that was the beginning of Schalke being ruined as a club. That didn't really
work. Yeah.
But can we blame him for that? And then
it's hard to say. But he's also just. He's not a fantastic. He doesn't have fantastic credentials, and his American connection is tenuous. So, there's like hundreds of people like him that you could find.
So you're not excited by this appointment?
No, I don't think so.
Me neither. I think it's good that he's a working coach in Europe. I know he was decent at Stuttgart, but they still fired him because. Or was he at Basel? Was it Grasshoppers? So he's one of those Swiss clubs, and they got second or third place, and they fired him because it was the first time they haven't won in a while or something. And now he's at Norwich with Josh Sargent. He understands the American player. He's coached McKennie. Now he's coaching Josh Sargent. The other thing I want to bring up with certain coaches is their relationship to the American player. The American player is a thing, for better or for worse. Like Oscar Pereira in Orlando, people think he'd be a good choice. He purposely only doesn't play Americans. He doesn't think they're good enough. There's a certain coach, and there's other coaches here we'll get into. They just have a history of not really knowing what to do with the American player. So giving them the reins to the U.S. men's national team, I find, would be a huge mistake. It's just that's essentially all you have to do is you have to figure out how to win with the American player. They don't have the same swagger or ball skills that an Argentinian or Brazilian's going to have. And they also don't necessarily have the same IQ that a German player is going to have or a British player or a Dutch player, Well,
I guess in that sense, he would be, he definitely has some experience at lower levels. He's not just used to
So he has a victory with Huddersfield.
But the championship is also, it's pretty cutthroat. It's not necessarily a development league in that sense. It's like...
And he pulled it off. Well, at least once. I think with Norwich.
But I'm saying it's a different.
didn't pull
It's a slightly different skill set than a national team coach or the U.S. national team coach, because it's a little bit. You have to take a little bit of a longer view, I think.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Again,
But you do have to
same
be-
kind of thing. No idea.
Championship, though, it's not a blank check. You have to be creative with your roster, right? Don't you? A little bit.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No.
and
I'm
the
not
U.S.
saying-
men's national team is
It's
like
a
that. You have to be
brutal.
creative.
It's a brutal. It's a brutal league. Yeah.
Right.
But I think it's not. You're not like. That's why you don't have that luxury really to, develop players as much as like you need results immediately. But
So
I
you'd
guess
be thumbs,
that's similar in the national team. There's no patience either, especially in the U.S. these days.
so thumbs down for David Wagner.
Thumbs. The twitchy thumb. That's the question mark thumb. No
Question
idea.
mark them. So Pellegrino and David Wagner. Okay. Now it's time
For the Germans, because it's the
Germans.
Schnitzel boys after all.
And a lot of Germans get pitched. Good for them. Okay. We already did essentially 2 Germans. even though David
Pellegrino
Wagner.
and David Wagner.
Well,
yeah.
Jürgen Klopp and David Wagner.
Oh, that's right.
Because David Wagner has openly said he identifies as German. He's a German.
Okay.
Okay. Ralf Rangnick
Rangnick.
of Österreich. I'll just start here saying I would be a guy. I think this is my favorite.
You're a fan.
I think him and one other guy are the 2 guys we should be approaching right now. The other guy may be a little more exciting, and I'll get to him in a bit. But Ralf Rangnick, if they appointed Ralf Rangnick, I would be thumbs super up on this guy.
Yeah, I think I agree, because he's also proven himself to have a more structural mind, and yeah, no, I agree. Do we have any indication if he's any interest?
No, it's just been no, but it's one of those things where we can offer him 2 to 3 times the salary he gets in Austria. Maybe we can pry him out of that contract. I think his gettability is a thing; it's a possibility.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think he's stated that he's going to coach Austria through the World Cup. I think it's maybe just assumed, but I don't think he's come out and said anything publicly yet. But he's proven, like the Austrian team, I think, as far as the player pool goes, the Austrian team is not that different from the U.S. team. They maybe have more senior players. They probably have more Bundesliga guys, more like worker type players. But doing more with less, he's proven to do that really well with Austria.
Yeah, it's true. It's a pretty comparable team.
Yeah, and Chris Armas would be his assistant coach. For the US.
Amazing.
Just like his Man United stint, I think there's very little wrong about this appointment. I would be really excited about it. I think he'd be the right man for the job for a 2-year stint to bring the U.S. to the World Cup I think he'd do great. I think he's just a good soccer mind, I think. So thumbs up for me, definitely.
All right.
Tuchel.
We know how you feel about Tuchel.
Yeah, he's available. He's out of contract right now. He's open for work. How would you feel if he was appointed the U.S. coach tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Tuchel guy. I've said this before. I mean, again, the big caveat is: would he want to do it? Why would he want to do it? Would he want to do it? I don't.
Well,
know.
he gets to drop Pulisic for a 3rd time.
I don't think he'd want to do it. I don't see how he would want to do it. But if he did want to, if he for some reason was excited about doing it, I think he'd be great.
Give me specifics on why you think he'd be great.
I think he's a good coach.
Sell me on Tuchel.
Serial winner. If you're looking,
That's true.
if that's the big item on your.
He's
on
won
your
2
list,
Champions Leagues, right?
I
Or just
don't
one?
think. Well, he's won a bunch of titles. Yeah, multiple Champions Leagues. He's won 2, made a final a couple times. He's won domestic. Yeah, he's a serial winner at a high level.
He's done all that with the richest clubs in the world, though.
Yeah, well,
you
that's
think-
true. That's true for Klopp too. I mean, to some extent.
Well, no, Klopp did better with Dortmund than Tuchel did with Dortmund. Tuchel did this with Chelsea,
that's
PSG,
true.
and Bayern
Somewhat.
München, but failed at Bayern München. I would give more props to Klopp, I think.
Okay, sure.
But my only thing with Tuchel, it goes back to the American player thing I brought up. He has dropped Pulley twice. I'm not criticizing for that. I'm sure he.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I don't think they're. I think that his experience with Pulisic is I think is not a plus. I don't think it's a plus for this. He doesn't
have a good relationship with our best player. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, so that's. I mean, they would have to figure it out, but he doesn't. I think he does not strike me as having any interest in this. So there.
I mean, So you're saying his good ability is low.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I think he'd be good.
All right. Yeah, we could do much worse than him. But I'll be very curious how this goes because it's a very different type of job, and frankly, this next guy I've got the same kind of issue with. In Terzic,
this is even.
Yeah, Tony Meola. Tony Meola pitched him. He's Tony Meola's favorite.
Interesting. Okay.
Actually, Tony Meola changed his favorite. We'll get into that in a second. This man has all these coaches have been pitched by big people. I'm not making this up. I scoured and I found this is the list. And people are like, we need to talk about Edin Terzic. She was great with Borussia Dortmund and Papa. But just like Tuchel with Pulli, Edin Terzic dropped Reina. Like he froze Reina out. So again, he doesn't have a great relationship with the American player. I don't know. There is a factor of knowing what to do.
Like he is so deeply a Dortmund guy. Like it seems. I mean, it's sort of hard to know what he's going to do anyway.
Right. He's also a one club guy, kind of like the German Jim Curtin. He's like,
yeah, exactly.
Will he be good somewhere else?
Yeah, it's very hard to imagine.
I, for one, am thumbs down. With Tuchel and Terzic, I've always been very critical of them, and that hasn't changed. Just tactically, I don't think Edin Terzic has much to offer.
I'd feel better about Tuchel than him.
Yeah, I think me too. Tuchel has proven to be a serial winner, where Terzic has proven to be a serial choker. He's brought up respect. He brought Dortmund to second place. He brought Dortmund to a Champions League final. Mm-hmm. All his past coaches, including Tuchel, couldn't pull that off. So he did do that, but like you said, he's sort of just a club dude. I don't know if he's like a.
Yeah, I can't really. Yeah, this is like when you said Graham Potter should go to Bochum. I was like, what? Yeah, it doesn't compute in my brain.
A little random, but doable. And I think his gettability is doable, right? If they offer him real money for a new job,
you think?
Sure, why not?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Now this next one is Tony Meola's favorite.
Does he speak any English?
Yeah, he gets interviewed on ESPN in English all the time. All Germans speak English, Bjorn. You know that.
Okay. But
at least on this list. All
right.
He might even speak better English than David Wagner.
Fair point.
He does fluent conversations in English. His English is better than some other coaches on this list. Okay. All right, this one's Tony Meola's favorite. This one gets pitched all the time, and I really don't know, and I want your take on it.
Yeah, same. Like what? Yeah, I don't see.
People bring him up a lot.
Really?
And it's just like, all over the place.
What is he up to even? Like
nothing.
He doesn't seem to be doing anything. He just wants to go watch games and hang out.
And do Nouveau commercials and pick us up.
Smell himself.
Yeah, I almost put the photo of him smelling his fingers.
To smell himself in the privacy of his own, unharassed.
So this becomes a bigger issue, and I'm going to put Gareth Southgate in this and one or two other coaches in this.
Okay.
Joachim Löw is a World Cup winning coach. However, he had Manuel Neuer, Philipp Lahm, Bastian Schweinsteiger, Thomas Muller, Mesut Ozil at his best. He just managed world-class players. Like, he won the World Cup title with great players. Kind of like how Gareth Southgate manages his players. I think there is a skill set to managing the best players in the world, and Joachim Löw excelled at that. And I think Gareth Southgate...
Until he didn't.
Until he didn't.
Also,
but what I'm saying is American fans look at that and be like, we need that. And I was like, no, it's a different job, right? The U.S. men's national team job is not that job. You're not managing world-class players, the U.S. men's national team. It's just so the skill set's different, right? Or am I wrong to think that?
I mean, he just sort of psychologically, it seems like he just, the U.S. team needs somebody who's like all in and fired up and like is going to roll up his sleeves and like I just don't see it. Like I don't see that. I mean, obviously I don't talk to Yogi Löw. We don't hang out. I don't have any sense of what he's up to. But if I had to guess, like he's not that guy.
Yeah, you mean like he just phoned it in? You're saying?
Well, I mean, I don't think he would want to do it. And then if he, I don't.
Would he do better than Jürgen Klinsmann, do you think?
Oh, well, yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, Jürgen Klinsmann didn't do any worse than any other coaches. So this would be a step up, do you think?
Neither did Greg, and everybody wants to run him out of town.
That's what I'm saying. We need a step up. Do you think Joachim Löw would offer a step up?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm a little lost with it because before he was the coach of the national team, he was a very obscure Bundesliga coach, just like a Pellegrino Matarazzo. He didn't do much
at all, and then he was Jurgen's assistant, and
right. He kind of snuck into the job, but he ended up doing really well.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious.
I think he's a good guy, and if he, for whatever reason, like woke up tomorrow morning and was like, "It is my calling to coach the U.S. men's national team, and I will do whatever it takes," then I'd be like, "Okay." I just don't have that sense of him at this point in his life.
Yeah. So if he's gung ho for it, thumbs up. But otherwise, thumbs down.
Yeah. Questions. Yeah.
Questions.
We have to know. What's in his heart?
Right? We don't know. He's just looking at sniffing. I don't know. Okay.
The Argentinians. How many Argentinians are there?
Oh, we've got quite a few. All right. First and foremost, Marcelo Bielsa.
All right.
What do you think?
I mean, would he want to, like, he's just
don't worry about him wanting to do it. Marcelo Bielsa is a career coach. He almost coached Atlanta United. I
don't think it's a good fit. I don't think it's a good fit.
Why not? I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just saying why.
The player pool would drive him crazy. The U.S. soccer nonsense would drive him crazy. He's like, it's like he'd be like Domit Torrent in at NYCFC. He was Pep's old assistant, and he did fine as a coach, but he just could never get over all the things that he deemed like ridiculous. Like,
yeah, but that's Marcelo. This is a national team coaching job. Marcelo Bielsa, Uruguay, and then he coached in France for Marseille, and he coached Leeds United. He's just a coach. I mean, he's not here to coach Columbus Crew. He's the national team. Why would the U.S. national team be different than the Uruguay national team experience?
Well, it's a lower quality player pool.
That's true.
And it's a top heavy organization. Yeah, it doesn't strike me as a good fit.
I mean, between him and Dominic Torrent, one has won a lot of titles and is a great coach, and the other's name is Dominic Torrent.
No, so I'm not comparing the two of them. I'm just saying I think it would be, that's what I'm imagining
his attitude would be.
That's what I'm imagining his attitude would be like.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I think he would be a step up. If he was announced tomorrow, I'd be like, he's a great coach. He's a great veteran coach. He's very smart.
It would sure be interesting. I mean, I'm not.
And I think
not
it would
saying
definitely.
I wouldn't be excited for it, but.
And I think this would be. He's definitely a serial winner, and I think this would be a step up from Greg.
Is he a serial winner though? What has he won recently?
I mean, I'd have to. Recently, I have to look.
I don't think.
All I know is that
I don't think he's a serial winner.
Didn't he win the championship with Leeds? That was his last job, wasn't
it? Before, yeah.
Because he took Leeds up. He promoted. They made Leeds a great team. Let's see. Honors.
He did not make them a great team. That's not true. He brought
took them
back,
up from the thing.
Took them up in the. Yeah, that's true. That's what he did.
Okay. Honors.
But he failed. They put a
Okay.
They put a lot of money into that team, and he did not make them a great team.
Honors. Yeah, he won the championship with Leeds in 2020. Yeah. Coach of the year. I mean, he's got a lot of titles, but these Summer Olympics in 2004, and then a bunch of Clausurs known as Old Boys. I mean, dude, he's an old school coach with titles under his belt. Mm-hmm. He's the Argentinian.
Well, he was an influential guy. Like a lot of great coaches cite him as an influence, and so he has.
He's the Argentinian Ralph
He's
Rangnick,
revered.
right?
He's revered. Yeah.
He's the Argentinian Ralph Rangnick, because Ralph Rangnick is also the Papa professor.
But he seems, I mean, he is maybe in his Vegas phase right now. I don't know. We'll find out.
I thought Uruguay looked pretty good under him.
I wanted to like them more than I did.
All right, so that's Argentina 1, old school Marcelo Bielsa. Number 2, Gerardo Tata Martino.
Sure.
People really wanted him before they hired Greg. He went to Mexico instead. Mexico's the worst it's ever been under him, and now he's back.
Yeah,
in
I
Miami.
mean, but clearly Mexico is just
Right,
it's
it's
not
the
all his fault. Yeah,
Right.
so but he is that rare guy, right? He is that rare guy who has had success, who had genuine success in Europe
and South America
and
the
in
United
South
States.
America and in MLS. So
Right.
there's not that many. He ticks a lot of boxes. Now the Mexicans couldn't wait to get rid of him,
Right.
and so his star does not shine quite as brightly as it once did. Although he's doing well with Inter Miami. Obviously, Inter Miami's been doing great even without Messi and Suarez.
Right.
So yeah, he'd be good.
Yeah, I mean, I would criticize his commitment to the Mexican national team. Probably wasn't amazing. He missed some games and stuff, and he really didn't have much to offer other than criticism. And you're right, it's just the system. But would he do the same with the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean,
Who
he's a
knows?
crusty a crusty old dude. I don't think he'd be transformative necessarily. But
Also, his English is very limited. Apparently, it's better than
Yeah,
it's
he's not-
been.
that's true.
I criticize the fact he didn't speak English. Everyone's like, Stefan does speak English. He just doesn't want to, or something. People are demanding to me that he speaks English. I'll believe it when I see it. However, how important is it to you for the coach to speak English?
Yeah, he's got to speak English.
Yeah, I think for me it's true. So that would be a point against a couple of these guys, like a Marcelo
Yeah,
Bielsa. or a
yeah,
Tata.
for sure.
They just speak in Spanish, and that'd be
But I mean, I think they can function.
right. From what I understand,
I mean,
apparently
they
Gerardo
have Bielsa as coach in the Premier League. Like
Right.
he's definitely
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's Tata. So you're much more on Tata than Marcelo Bielsa. You'd pick Tata. First.
I think definitely. Better
If Tata were announced as head coach tomorrow, would you be like, cool, good choice?
fit. I would say decent choice.
All right, decent choice. All right. How about this one?
No.
Machias Almeida, current coach of AEK Athens, I think. He was at San Jose. He was a big hit at Chivas de Guadalajara. And he was known as a specialist of getting a lot out of nothing. However, at San Jose, not a lot happened under him. So you're just a hard pass.
San Jose were very interesting under him, and I was watching them semi closely because they were so he had a very different approach, and he's got a good. But it never came together in the end,
No,
and I think I don't think he's that good a coach ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Fornelli, whoever the guy ran in San Jose, probably got a lot of criticism. His time at Chivas was good. His time in Greece, I'm not sure. I just flat out, I don't follow the Greek league. But, he's got European and South American and North American coaching experience, and he knows the MLS system. He's been here, and people have been pitching him. But you're saying, nah, kind of no reason.
I mean, he's like what separates him from like 100 other people? Like, I don't know.
Let me look up real quick, Ivan. Let me look up his honors. Maybe he's got more. Maybe he's doing really well in Greece or something. I give him enough credit. Let's see here. Honors.
But like, how it's Greece. Like, how well could he like?
Well, do you think Greece and MLS are comparable? Probably.
No.
Greece is probably better than MLS.
No, it's not significantly.
What are you talking
worse.
about? You really think?
Yeah.
But they're at least comparable on a level.
No
You think?
way.
You think Panathinaikos, they play in the Champions League every year? You think they couldn't hold their own in MLS?
No.
So as a manager, he won the league with River Plate, and then with
Okay.
Banfield, which is huge. It's a small club.
Yeah,
he did a lot of titles with
Argentina.
Guadalajara, and he just won the domestic double with AEK Athens. So he is a winner. He's winning stuff. He just won the league and the cup with AEK Athens just this past year.
Yeah, but then it's like, but if you're going to throw at him, then why not Ronnie Dyla? Why not?
Ronnie Dyla has none of these titles.
What do you mean? Ronnie Dyla
I'm
won
not sure.
MLS Cup. He won the Scottish League with Celtic.
Machias Almeida is the Super Greek Manager of 2023, the CONCACAF Coach of the Year of 2018, the Liga MX Coach of the Year
Yeah,
2017,
like,
and the back-to-back Argentina Coach of the Year in 2012 and 2014. The dude wins nothing but
That was a long
coaching
time.
titles.
That was a long time ago. Gio Reyna is the CONCACAF Player of the Year.
What I'm saying is this dude has been all over the world and he's won titles. He is a serial winner. He doesn't know the system. Where Ronnie Deila, again, nothing against Ronnie Deila, he didn't win anything at Celtic, right? He won the English Cup at NYC.
Yeah, he won the league at Celtic,
and he hasn't won anything with either of his Belgian clubs, right? He's just an obscure sort of. He's a more obscure coach than Almeida.
Bruce doing well.
Yeah. Well, anywho,
he's not more obscure than Almeida.
I would argue that
he has European experience, contrary to Almeida.
Ronnie Deila has no Argentinian experience. What do you mean continent?
Why do you need Argentinian?
What continent is Greece in? What continent is Greece in?
The Greek. I mean, if you're bringing up the Greek league
compared to the Belgian league, I mean, I don't know why you're poo-pooing on the Greek league.
Belgian league significantly stronger than the Greek league for sure.
I'm gonna have to agree to disagree. Significantly stronger.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So, but you're just a no on Almeida.
Definitely. I'm also. I mean, I think
I'm not a no. I'm not a yes.
I just think there's a lot of. I think when you get to that category coach, it's like, why him over like a dozen? I mean, I'm not saying
Wilfred Nancy, right?
Or Ronnie Deila or anybody. Like Patrick Vieira came up a bunch of times. I don't know if he's on your list. Spoilers. Like, all right, ready? I think Ronnie Deila would be better than him for sure.
Okay, that sounds like an NYCFC homer take. To be fair,
why?
But, because he was your coach, and Matthias Almeida was not your coach.
No, I was saying Ronnie over Vieira.
I thought you meant over Matthias Almeida. Sorry.
Yeah, and over Matthias Almeida also.
That's a homer take. All right, moving on. Marcelo Gallardo. A lot of people talk about him.
Yeah.
River Plate champion, former DC United player. So I can bring a little info on this guy. Okay. So Marcelo Gallardo was a huge Argentinian league guy. I think he did play for the national team, but I don't think he ever really played in Europe. Let me Google real quick before I talk out of school. But he was a big River Plate dude, and he went to DC United. It was a big deal, but he was very obscure at DC United. He wasn't amazing at DC United. And then he went back. Yeah, here we go. 15 appearances, 4 goals for DC United. He was kind of in and out of DC United. And okay, I'm wrong. He played at Monaco and Paris Saint-Germain before he went to DC United after a PSG stint. So he was and he played for Argentina, 44 caps.
But these are his playing
as a player.
Irrelevant.
At DC United, he was one of those guys, one of those European guys who was in and out and very obscure. And then he criticized the league when he left. He said this league sucks, pretty much. He's like, he didn't say that, but he says his players in this league need to take more chances. They need to be more attacked. Pretty much, he criticized MLS and his very forgettable time with DC United, and went down to River Plate and then finished his career in Argentina. And then apparently was the River Plate coach here from 24 to 2022 and won a lot of titles with River Plate. He just finished a stint in Saudi Arabia, apparently. So that's why people are talking about him. He's available. He won a lot of titles with River Plate.
Yeah.
He's been at DC United, so he's not a stranger to the U.S. soccer scene, even though, like I said, he criticized it. But this makes me think of Guillermo Barros Escaloto, right? Who was the Boca version of the same thing, but he did really well at Columbus as a player. And then he coached Boca for many years. Then he went to LA Galaxy, and remember what happened with that? That was pretty forgettable.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what's Scalotto doing these days? He's back in
I think he's in that...
I'd put him as the River Plate version of the same thing, but with less MLS experience.
Yeah, he's in that Pellegrino Matarazzo category. Maybe, but who knows? Hard to know.
Escaloto went to coach Paraguay for a couple years after that, but then left, and he's been out of work for a year. So yeah, you're right.
He's available. He's free, so that's a plus.
Yeah. So let's say Marcelo Gallardo gets hired tomorrow. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I would be like, let's wait and see.
He's not an exciting candidate for you. So.
No, I guess not. No, I think he'd be part. Yeah, same here. Yeah.
People bring him up. He was the head coach of Argentina back in the day. He's an old Argentinian coaching veteran. He's available. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I think same. I have no idea. It's such an odd. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really check the box, right? Again, he's part of a large crowd. I feel like, you could name a lot of people like this.
Okay, sorry. I just checked in with the chat. I realized I've been ignoring the chat.
Daniel
I've been off
Young.
a different
Yeah, I'm sorry. We've been ignoring you.
Yeah, sorry. But I've been on a different screen, so I haven't been able to check an eye in the chat.
Right.
Daniel Young, hello everyone. West Ham United, 100%. I hope you have fun at the game. Joachim Löw, here we go. Joachim Löw is a good candidate because of his resume, but he isn't doing anything. Yeah, I think we covered that.
Yeah.
And here we go. He's got thoughts on Gallardo. Marcelo Gallardo can pull off a couple masterpieces. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So you're rooting for his future, I think.
Okay.
I like Jose Peckerman. Like, it'd be random to me, but he's just an old vet. And I think a good old vet is never a bad thing. A guy who's proven to know what he's doing. So Jose Peckerman, a little obscure. You're not excited about his appointment.
No.
All right. This
is your.
That's my number one.
Your pick. Your pick of the litter.
This is my pick of the litter. Mauricio Pochettino. Let's pretend we hired Mauricio Pochettino tomorrow. What would be Bjorn's response?
I think I would give the same caveat as to that I gave for Klopp and all the really high profile people. It's like, why would he want to do that? Does he want to do it? If he wants to do it, great. Yeah, I think he'd be awesome.
Yeah, he's not only is he a top level coach, he's also did really well with smaller clubs in Spain and with Southampton and England.
And he seems like a genuinely good guy.
He speaks good English and Spanish, so it's like a double.
Spanish has had all. Yeah, he's high profile. He's available. But
he's like Marcelo Bielsa's like young, energetic Padawan. He's like the younger, more energetic from the school of Bielsa, I think.
Yeah, if he has any interest, he should be the next call. Now that Klopp has said no. Yeah, I agree with you. Very, very should be high on the list.
Yeah, with Klopp saying no, for me, Rangnick and Pochettino would be the next calls in my mind, as far as like coaches who would everything get.
Well, Rangnick's under contract, but he's available.
He's
available, yeah.
And money checks clear. Maybe it's just a 2-year job. It's just a 2-year job. So I don't know. Maybe he'll do that for a bit, and then I don't know. If you offer him a lot of money, it gives him an opportunity to say no to $20 million for a 2-year job, right? I think he'd be great. All right. Now it's time for the French. This one, people are gaga over. He has been, I think, the most popular choice.
Who's gaga over him?
The fans, the Twitter folk. And then the Golasso guys had talked about it this morning. People are just bringing him. He's one of those guys where you hear Hugo Perez a lot, hear Tab Ramos a lot. As of late, Hervé Renard has just been pitched left and right. He is like, if you didn't know any better, he's by far the most popular candidate. And I don't get it.
But isn't there yeah, I don't know. I mean, my reference point for hierarchy between the women's game and the men's game is Nick Cushing. Nick Cushing won Champions League with Man City women repeatedly. Won a lot of titles, and then he became Ronnie Dyle's assistant on NYCFC. That was like his next job. I was like, oh wow, okay, that's weird. And then he became a head coach. So I don't know. Is that like?
Are you bringing that up because he's the head coach of the French women's team right now?
Yeah, like isn't there a?
So Hervé Renard,
I thought there was.
I'll give you a rundown.
I thought there was still. I mean, obviously, I don't want to. I'm not looking to denigrate the women's game or anything like that, but it's. I was surprised when this happened. So I was like, I guess there is a big.
I'll explain why.
Status. Well, that was my evidence. I was like, if you are the head coach of Man City Women and you win a bunch of titles, you're very successful, and then you want to.
Renard was never the head coach of the Man City Women.
I'm saying this is what I'm saying about my experience with the hierarchy between the two. He wanted to then become Nick Cushing's dream is he wants to become Everton.
Are we talking about Nick Cushing? Sorry.
Because this is my reference point.
Okay. All right, fine.
If you just listen, I will explain it to you.
I will. I'm listening.
This when he made that move, he wanted to get into the men's game, and then he works for City Football Group. They have a lot of options, but then what they thought was the appropriate move for him after coaching the Man City Women to very many titles was being an assistant to Ronnie Dyla on the MLS team NYCFC. So if that's like the equivalent, the equivalent on the career kind of status ladder of coaches, then why would Hervé Renard take over the men's national team?
Okay, Hervé Renard won 2 AFCON titles with 2 different men's national teams.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
that's
that.
why I'm trying to. That's why I'm trying to get in here.
Oh, so you should
completely unrelated.
Oh, you should have stopped me then.
Hervé Renard has been a head men's coach for 20 years. He coached the French top flight. That's why I was
I know
trying to.
nothing.
That's why I was a little confused as to what you were talking about.
Oh, all right.
This French women's gig is the first. It's a gig. It's the first time he's been coaching women. I think he was the head coach of Saudi Arabia when they beat Argentina at the World Cup in 2022. That's why he's the popular candidate.
So this is an embarrassing moment for me. We have to.
Yeah, you interrupted me. You told me to stop
We
talking.
have to edit
twice.
this. We have to edit this out.
I was like, I don't. Why are we talking about Nick Cushing? Okay.
So why did he take the women's job?
Because it was a job. He's a career coach. He takes jobs. He's very gettable. If U.S. Soccer calls him tomorrow and be like, "Hey, will you quit your French women's job for the U.S. job?" He'd say yes because he's a career coach.
Okay.
He has a long history
Very good
of
looking. Really handsome.
He's very, very handsome. People have taught that there have been serious posts by nuttos on the U.S. soccer sphere about this would draw more women.
I have to know more about Hervé Renard.
Put Hervé Renard in the Wikipedia and look at the honors section. You'll see he's led 2 different teams to 2 major titles, unrelated to his nationality, which is the plus category.
So he was. Oh, right. He was the Saudi Arabia. I knew this. Okay.
And then the reason he's popular is because he was a big hit at the 2022 World Cup because of the Saudi Arabia gig.
Right.
And Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. However,
Oh, yeah.
However, so are we up to speed now? It's nothing to do with his experience of the women's game and stuff.
I should just not be a pundit. That's just really that's what this comes down to.
That's why I wanted to send you the list ahead of time so you can Google some of these guys. However, what people seem to forget is that Saudi Arabia were last place in their group, and they lost to Poland and Mexico right after they beat Argentina.
Well, but it's Saudi Arabia. But
it's Mexico.
Expectations were low.
But it's Mexico.
Well, but Mexico 2022 was
They were third place in that group.
They were not good. Okay.
So I don't understand when people are gaga. It's like, yeah, they had a good game against Saudi Arabia. They bunkered, but Argentina won the whole tournament. Big teams can lose their opening game. They're in it for the long haul, So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you don't hire somebody because of one
a game. However, and also, like Charlie Davies talked about this morning, he was the head coach of Sochaux when they were relegated in France. So it's like, to me, he's got huge Bora vibes. The kind of guy who's a specialist at like Jamaica. Or Jamaica should hire this guy.
Winfried Schäfer.
He's exactly who I brought up when I talked about this on my TikTok this morning. I said he's the Winfried Schäfer of France.
Yeah.
And like he would be big for us in '94. Now I do respect the fact that he won the AFCON with Ivory Coast, then he won the AFCON with I think Morocco or Zambia, I think, one of the smaller countries. So that's real. That's legit. Like that does show that he can take a mid-level team and go win a title.
And most of his experiences in national teams and
right.
All right.
Right.
Changing my mind about Hervé Renard. Learning so much.
I was trying to stop you and you wouldn't let me. You said I'm supposed to listen.
I was gonna dig my own grave.
It's okay. We're all learning here. It's fine. But like, yeah. So people are really gaga about him, and I think he is good. But is he like our first choice to fix our men's team? You know what I mean? I'm like, I think we can shoot higher than Hervé Renard. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair.
Well, I mean, if like Poch and Rangnick are long shots, right? We think
probably, yeah.
So
this is gettable. He's gettable. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, among the the sea of mediocre dudes, I think he's probably he fits a profile at least. Like he has taken middling. Well, I guess he's taken teams that are below. The expectations were definitely lower for both Morocco than they would be for the U.S. But he definitely has a track record in that regard. So I think he might be good.
Yeah, he definitely fits the profile. But I think my thing for him is I want him kind of low on the list because, like I said, he's more the Winfried Schäfer. And I don't think we need a Winfried Schäfer right now. We need like more proven more established coach, I guess. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Well,
on
he's
Irv.
plenty established, I guess. That's not it. But
Not established enough for you to know who he was. I mean, that's a natural filter right there, right?
yeah, fair enough, I guess.
And none of us knew who he was until the 2022 World Cup, until his coming out party. But anyway, so that's Irv Renard. I'm lukewarm to cold on him,
right.
but he seems to be a very popular candidate amongst the Twitter sphere and amongst the guys.
He should tuck in his shirt.
I don't know. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's doing like this is the guy who's on the cover of your mom's romance books.
All right.
100%. Anyway, that is. Oh, and then we got Thierry Henry. People have been bringing him up as a very serious candidate. I, for one, don't see it. I don't really get it. But what are your thoughts on Thierry Henry?
No, he doesn't want to do it. I mean,
I think he'd do it. But how would he do? Would we do really well under him?
As a coach, he's not a serial winner. He's not even any kind of winner.
He had two very short stints as a club coach.
Yeah, he was
and
in
then
Montreal, and then he was like, "Oh, this COVID thing sucks. I'm out of here."
And then he flamed out at Nice, I believe, for like 2 months or whatever.
And then he was the assistant. Yeah, he doesn't. He has no credentials.
I'm thumbs down on this as well. He gets brought up too much, in my opinion. Patrick Vieira. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he has not had a great club career as a coach. He's definitely also not a serial winner. I mean, you know, I loved him when he was at NYCFC. I mean, he's just an outstanding human and was a great guy. And I mean, but obviously a totally different situation. We were terrible when he took over, and then he left in the middle of the night because he had some offer in France and lied about it, and so it was a sort of a sad ending. I mean, I have a soft spot for him in my heart, but I think, but again, really, just based on his record, if you bring him up, there's like 100 other people, and like Ronnie Dyla, I think would be better than him potentially.
Well, Patrick, I definitely pick him over Thierry Henry in a heartbeat. But Patrick Vieira, he went to Nice, right? I think he went to Nice, maybe.
He went to Nice and Crystal Palace and the Prem.
For 2 seasons, right? Was he there for 2 seasons?
Yeah, and that was okay, but they did a lot better after he left, too.
Right. Oliver Glasner's doing a better job.
Doing much better than he is. So, yeah. Yeah, definitely not a sure thing, but I think he's a great. Yeah, I think he's a great guy. I don't see him also necessarily standing out over. I mean, he has the MLS experience,
right?
And he has. I mean, I guess he is in that sense one of that select few of people who have very have MLS credentials plus very solid Euro credentials.
Yeah, he's like, we were talking earlier about MLS guys who went to Europe. This would be an example of that.
I mean, he's like, he's like soccer royalty, but based on his playing career,
right,
more so than his coaching career. But he certainly has everybody. I mean, it
could be another Klinsmann situation.
When he was at NYCFC, everybody obviously stood up a little straighter when he walked into the room, and
that might be what the U.S. That might be what the U.S. program needs, because another thing about this new coach, I think it was Paul Tenorio or someone, one of the guys, only like 10 of them, is like what he wants most from this new coach is to start the player pool from scratch. He wants them to like assemble the player council, and he wants everyone to earn their spot again. And I'm like, yeah, I like that. Someone who's more dictatorial. Like you said, everyone would stand up straight under Patrick Vieira, and I would love for him to, like, he would be a good dude to come in and be like, all right, let's start from scratch, earn your spots again. And I think our national team would have a new look. It would look a little different, I think, if that were the case. And he's the kind of guy I think who could do that.
He would bring Tommy McNamara back.
He'd bring Mix Diskerud back in the fold.
No, he was not. He was not a fan of Mix at all, actually.
Well, then that's a good thing.
But he loved Tommy Mac.
He would never have cut Landon Donovan to call in Mixed Diskerud for the world. Let's put it that way. All right, but for me, it's a very obscure. I would prefer him over Thierry Henry, but I'd be like, All right, Zinedine Zidane. Everyone wants Zidane. Bayern München wants Zidane. Every vacant head coach job, it's like, can we get Zidane, do you think? I don't know. What do you think about Zidane being the head coach of the U.S. national team?
That'd be a terrible choice.
Terrible? Why? Because he just be terrible?
He has no patience.
He doesn't speak English either. I know that.
Doesn't speak English. He doesn't have any patience for the mediocre players that make up a large part of the U.S. player pool. Like he's got no time for this.
Right. Yeah, he's a specialist at managing Cristiano Ronaldo and Real Madrid. That's really all he's proven, which he did very well, by the way. But the U.S. men's national team, totally apples and oranges job. All right, so the Brits.
Oh my God.
Sammy Allardyce.
Yeah, he comes up a lot.
Yeah, he's a specialist. He's what's it called, a Feuerwehr coach. He comes into suffering clubs, rips up the game plan, brings them back to basics, and salvages them.
He feels that's undeserved. He feels like he is just as top a coach as anybody else.
I think he'd be fine. I think he's a veteran coach who's smart. I think he's just a man-manager type dude. He's not a huge X's and O's guy. I don't know. Like the English wanted Sam Allardyce. He would be the English coach maybe today if that scandal of him cheating agents or whatever never came out. He'd probably, I don't know. What do you think about Sam Allardyce being the U.S. coach?
Yeah, I guess. I can't say that I really know him well enough to have a real opinion. I think he, I think he's in the category of why would he want it? Why would he want this job? But if he did, maybe.
Well, he wants this job. I think he tried to get the job before Greg was hired. He lobbied.
Oh, he
for
did?
it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So I think that's why he's on the list because he's very gettable, and he would be an example of a European manager that we can get our hands on after Poch and
he's pretty old. He's pretty old at this point, right?
Yeah.
What exactly? How old is he exactly?
Yeah, you look him up, or I'm looking him up too. Sam Allardyce, 69, the perfect age in many regards. Sam Allardyce, okay, I'm going to try to cut through a little bit.
He's about ready to run for president. Okay, so
Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan Rodgers.
Celtic coach. Before Klopp, he was a pretty dang decent Liverpool coach. Just a veteran, good top flight British coach.
Yeah, but this is another random. It's a very random choice.
I got his name from somewhere. There must be some sort of contact here. I think he was maybe on the ESPN list or so. Even if it isn't random, let's say we offered him, he said yes, he took the job. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he'd be fine.
Yeah, I think he'd be good. We can do worse than Brendan Rodgers. I would be in, if Brendan Rodgers was hired, I'd be like, okay, good job. The one thing for me is something we've never ever had is just a solid, experienced European top flight coach. We've never had that
in the same way. I mean, I guess he has better, although not really. Doesn't have a whole lot. I mean, he hasn't won a whole lot. I mean, he won, obviously Celtic, but yeah, I mean, what does he have that Pellegrino Matarazzo doesn't? I think he falls into that category of big question marks. Like, who knows? I don't know how Brendan Rodgers would be with the U.S. men's national team. I have no data. I have no point of comparison.
Brendan Rodgers has more years of experience at higher level clubs than Pellegrino Matarazzo does. He's been in it longer. He was the head coach of Liverpool during the Luis Suarez years. Remember, he was top of the news for a long time. Pellegrino Matarazzo hasn't climbed to that level.
Yeah, but you didn't win anything with them.
They did well. I mean, I don't know. Did he not win an FA Cup? Or let's put it in. Let's look at the numbers here. Brendan Rodgers. I would be fine with him as coach because we've had everything. We've had the MLS club guy. The only thing we haven't had is a European top flight coach. And I'm not saying that would be a super success, but I want to see what it looks like. So we have the precedents for our next hire. You know what I mean? A lot of individual titles. As a manager, but he won with Leicester City. He won the FA Cup with Leicester City in 2021. That's no short feat.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that. Yeah.
Plenty of Scottish stuff, but like you, I don't put a lot of faith. If you're Celtic, you should be winning all the Scottish stuff.
The Greek League, it's not. The Greek League apparently is a big benchmark for you.
Well, more than the Scottish League, definitely. The Scottish League only has 2 clubs, and the Greek League has 4. That already makes it twice as competitive.
So you're saying the Greek League is better than the Scottish League?
It's more competitive. Panathinaikos, AEK, and Olympiacos are 3 big clubs. And Scotland
But
only has Rangers
but
and Celtic.
Celtic would crush any of them.
Crush them? You
Yeah.
sure?
I'm not sure. I don't know, but like,
I think
Anyway.
you'd find anyway. I don't like Olympiacos or AK. They're the kind of clubs that also end up in the Champions League group stage and don't get through, just like Celtic does. I think they're
in
at
this
similar
Champions
level.
League group stage, when was the last time?
Look it up. I'm going to do the next coach here. All right, Brendan Rodgers. If you had to pick between Sam Allardyce and Brendan Rodgers, who would you pick?
I don't care either of them.
All right, David Moyes, my boy Moyes. We talked about this many times.
Oh yeah,
also,
you like him.
Available, high-level dude, loves the American player. Landon Donovan and Brian McBride and Tim Howard all say they'd die for that man. He's just he's my number one when it comes to the Brits, and I wouldn't consider him any less talented than a Sam Allardyce or a Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean? As far as coaching goes. He just won the Conference League with West Ham United, you know, and he was great with Everton for many years. He's a specialist at getting more with less. You know, we can do much worse than David Moyes, I think.
Okay.
Do you have any other thoughts on him?
Nope.
Gareth Southgate.
Gareth Southgate.
Let's pretend he wants to leave the press. He steps down from his job, becomes the U.S. head coach. What do you think?
Yeah, he's the same as the other guys, the other 3. I mean, yeah, same category for me. I don't know. No idea.
Well, the other 3 guys are club coaches. Gareth Southgate's only a national team.
He's got a national team. Yeah, but he has no U.S. connection that I'm aware of whatsoever.
Well, him and Greg were very close, and
And,
they trained together and stuff. So he was close with the U.S. program.
Well, then let's go.
So if you had to pick of the 4 Brits, who would you hire?
It's Moyes, Brendan Rodgers, and I mean, I guess I would hire Southgate over the other 3 just because of his national. Daniel Young is not a fan.
Yeah, what do we got on the chat? What do we got on the chat?
No, Southgate, says Daniel Young.
Tell us why, Daniel Young. Why no Southgate? Why no Southgate? Tell us why.
I mean, he would teach him to defend at least. That'd be good.
Well, we need to teach the team to attack. I think we had a little too much to defend.
All right.
So Gareth Southgate, I would not be crazy, but I think it'd be very random. And Gareth Southgate falls in the Joachim Löw category. Managing world-class players is a different skill set. Just because national team experience doesn't mean he's proven anything that he can do well at a lower-level player pool. You know what I mean? You have to be a little more creative with player pools.
I got some updates on the Greek league if you want to hear it.
All right, what do you got for me?
So, you are right that the Greek league and the Scottish league are pretty comparable according to the UEFA coefficient, which measures their recent performance in European competitions. I am correct in saying that the Belgian league is significantly better than both of those.
Well, how significant? What are we talking?
Have twice the coefficient points over the last 5 years.
Yeah, but like the Greek league to me is like the Swiss league or the Scottish league, right? It's like in that level.
No, but there's a big. That's what I'm saying. There's a big gap. The Greek league and the Swiss league and the Scottish league and Denmark, Danish league, the Polish. Those are all, or the Austrian league. They're all very much comparable. But Belgium is significantly better.
Yeah, and Belgium has been
is
better
up there.
over the years.
Belgium is better than the Turkish league. Belgium is
That's surprising to hear.
Is just behind Portugal.
Yeah, good for the Belgian league. They've really gone from strength to strength the last few years. How do they compare to the Dutch league then?
Dutch league is better. The Dutch league is the next league, obviously after the
Portuguese league?
After the top 4. No, the top 5 rather. Sorry,
I was gonna say higher than
Big
the French.
5.
Yeah.
But the Dutch league, based on UEFA coefficients, very close. Is not much behind. The French league, league is a ways behind to the top 4, and
right.
the Dutch league is much closer to the French league than the French league is to the Bundesliga.
But Matthias Almeida went to Greece, didn't know the language, didn't get any connection to it, and he won Coach of the Year and he won a domestic double with his club. You know, props to that. That'd be like, I don't know, Bob Bradley going to Scotland, taken over Rangers. I'm trying to think. It's hard to compare. Or he went to Switzerland. Let's say that. I think Switzerland's the better. And he took over Grasshopper Zurich and won the league double that year with them. I give props to that.
All right.
If you're an outsider. But anywho, so Southgate over the other three because of the training experience. For me, I'm a David Moyes boy. All right, now we have a few. We're coming to the end here. The other elite, the others, and the rest. Thomas Frank has been thrown around quite aggressively. What do you think about him?
I mean, yeah. Again, he's in the like. Why not say 100 other people? Like, what does he have over? He's in the Almeida, Ronnie Deila, Patrick Vieira, the morass of.
He's a level above. He's a level
above because he's got Brentford.
Because he's doing really well in the Prem. He's doing well with a small club, and he's getting props. I think he's in a little bit of a higher category of those other three. I think he's just a random dude who's done well. He is random, but I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'd put him. If I had a top 10 list. He'd be 5 and below.
He's a good coach, but it's like if you're, and then you can just name every coach in the top 5 league. And
he's linked for a reason. He must have a connection, or there must be something about his numbers or something. But anyway, so Thomas Funk, Rando, Carlo Ancelotti, only because he's vacationing in Montana. What do you think?
He's got the Canadian connection, right?
I'm telling you,
he loves America.
It could be his last job before he retires.
Yeah, he'd be great. No, he'd be awesome.
You'd be big thumbs up on him. Totally. Yeah, he'd be a big kid. Yeah. You think he would do better with the national team than the former coaches, do you think?
No. I mean,
you think he'd just do as well?
You know what I think? I don't think that's a thing. I don't think there's a coach that exists that would come in and transform this player pool into world beaters overnight. I don't think that's a thing. I think he'd be fine, but...
How high is he on your list, Carlo Ancelotti?
If he wants to do it, he would be right up there. Like, yeah.
All right. Carlo Ancelotti. Yeah, for me, it's two things. Either he's great and we do well, or B, we finally solve the experiment of a rich, high-level coach doesn't make your team better. It's win-win, kind of. It's one or the other.
Well, I think he'd be great, but I don't think anybody would transform this team anyway. Which is probably another good reason. They would be better. It's another reason to not spend $200 million on something.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to spend that, but we definitely will agree to disagree that he would make the team better than being grouped at the Copa America. I think.
Yeah, he would get them out of the. No, I agree. I mean, this was bad.
The goal, I think, with 2026 is to.
But like Ronnie Deila could do that too.
He's unfortunately not on my list. All right, Stefano Pioli. Italian veteran of many years, let go by AC Milan at the end of the year, but he played Puli. He played the American player, and he's an Italian veteran and serial winner, just like Carlo Ancelotti is, maybe a younger Ancelotti.
Okay.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Sure. Does he want to do it?
You ask me that every time, and I'm not their agent, so I don't know.
But that's the
they'll get a call. No, they'll get a call from the thing. They'll get offered ridiculous amounts of money, way more than a Serie A club could play, and then they have to say no to it. That's all. That's the only answer I can offer. I can't tell you whether they really want to do it in their soul.
I don't think it's not a good fit.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay. Luis de la Fuente, who has announced his interest in the job.
Yeah, and he's a youth. He's that profile, the youth coach. But I mean, in the Spanish system, obviously, not the American system.
However, I truly believe it was just his agent angling for a new contract.
Yeah,
I think it was just a glow blow.
I think that's true.
I don't think he has any real interest in coming and coach the team. And let's say he does. Luis de la Fuente knows Spain, knows Spanish players. The U.S. player pool are like the anti-Spanish players. Like, they're not Spanish players, right? They don't hold the ball well. So, like, what would he do with our crop of boys? Would it work? Do you think? Would he be any better than?
Well, I mean, to his credit, he has not just kind of picked up where his predecessor left off. This Spanish team is very different from Spanish teams in the past. He's been more direct, more pragmatic. So I think he's proven himself to be someone who adapts to the people that he's got, and I think that's right? That's what the doctor is ordering currently, right, for the U.S. men's national team after this.
Any sort of shake up and refresh. Yeah, shake up and a refresh. Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, if you know, like I keep saying this, but like when you have these kinds of people who have like no connection to America, no connection to the program, then it's sort of like, why? How would we know if this would work or not? It could be a what's the Galaxy guy?
Guillermo Barros Escaloto. Yeah.
Scalotto. Could be a Scalotto situation. Could be a.
Well, he had a connection to the league. It was a good hire at the time. It just
what's the best case scenario for the Euro coach coming to MLS successfully? Where has that worked? When has that worked well? Ronnie Dyla. Is my Homer example? But,
Barros Escaloto came from South America. Yeah, you mean someone foreign coming and doing well?
Someone with European only credentials coming to the U.S. and doing well.
Well, Bora Milutinovic and then Jürgen Klinsmann, I guess would be the two examples.
Well, yeah, I mean Klinsmann.
Bora definitely, because he took a backwater team of nobodies. And
he did well. Right.
But we're past
that. Was also those were different times. That was like basically like that was like Hervé Renard going to Saudi Arabia.
Right, exactly. We're past.
That was the Vinny Schaefer scenario.
On July 4th, I watched the USA-Brazil round of 16 game from 1994 in its entirety. Someone posted the broadcast online.
Wow.
And it was such a fun little time capsule. The ABC broadcasters were trying to sell a sport that the audience didn't know, and it was just so fun. And during the game, they would cut to interviews of Marcelo Balboa and Alexi Lalas and things like that. It's different times. But what I saw was a U.S. team live in their box for 90 minutes and just kick the ball out.
Yeah,
I mean, Brazil, it was apples and oranges. It was a World Cup winning team versus a team that was lucky to be there. So people who say we haven't gotten any better since 94 are lying. They don't know what the heck they're talking about. Those, like Alexi Lalas, should never have been a professional soccer player. He's not that talented. So Hervé Renard to me feels like that. Like, we don't need Hervé Renard. Jamaica needs Hervé Renard. We don't need Hervé Renard. No disrespect to Jamaica, but that's the thing. Okay, two quick bonuses I heard this morning because I can't think. Rafa Benitez has announced his interest. He talks about how much he loves Luca de la Torre and the American player, and Rafa Benitez has announced his interest. How do you feel about that?
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be decent. He speaks English, speaks Spanish, high-level coach, he's got some titles under his belt, been around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We can do worse than Rafa Benitez.
Definitely.
And then Xavi, how about that?
Xavi Barcelona? Xavi Hernandez?
Former Xavi, the one that Barcelona got rid of, yeah. Replaced by Hansi Flick.
He'll always be Barcelona Xavi, even when he's not there.
Yeah, how do you think about Barcelona Xavi?
Yeah, I don't see that either.
It's kind of like with this, you gave Luis de la Fuente more props. It's like Xavi is good with the Spanish player, like with the Spanish system. So if you take something like that and throw them in the U.S., it's like these aren't Spanish players.
But he's also almost. I mean, first of all, he did not do all that well in Barcelona. I mean, at the end, I guess he did. But he's sort of almost in the Zidane category of like, or the Thierry Henry, Zidane, the like.
He's like in the middle. I think he lives in the middle.
But the former great player who is like, why would they? Have they shown to have any patience with the lesser? With the lesser players, not really.
Thierry Henry definitely hasn't. No.
And I think Luis de la Fuente has that going for. I mean, not like, he's a youth coach. Like that's not going to be the issue. He's not going to be like, oh, you guys are not good enough.
No, 100%.
Well,
all right.
Wow, that took a long time. There's nobody is still listening. But
no, we got listeners. That took longer than I thought. I wanted to cut this into a 30-minute video, and this is a 3-hour broadcast. Dang, I wasn't looking at the time.
You could cut but you can.
I'll cut them into segments.
You can, cut them into little pieces, and Who's it going to be? We will find out. In the end, it's going to be Steve Cherondolo, and
if that happens, though,
there's not going to be a lot of romance.
Our last broadcast, I said I'd be fine with Steve Cherondolo. I'm amending my statement. If that happens, that's such a boring hire.
Now that you've got this, now that we just saw the smorgasbord of interesting and intriguing candidates, Steve Cherondolo is not going to quicken our heart rate.
No, I want Poch. I want Ralph Ragnick. I want David Moyes. I want Rafa Benitez before Steve Trundle. Hopefully we get our hands on one of that.
But I think the appetite, right? If we're talking about the fan base, the appetite is for the international,
right.
The international, a little bit of romance, a little bit of glamour, of European,
right,
of European flair is what the people want.
And there's a lot of, going back to the Twitter sphere thing, there's just so much anxiety. Like when Greg lost that game, everyone on Twitter was like, sources say U.S. Soccer's not going to fire him. Everyone's like, you're not going to fire him? Right. Oh, man, that's the worst. And I'm like, what sources? What are you talking about? And 10 days later, they announced that he was fired. And now people like, sources are saying they already offered the job to Steve Trundle. It's like, no, you have anxiety and people make crap up on Twitter. But all Matt Crocker has done is A, fire Berhalter, B, say he's sorry for Berhalter, and C, saying this next coach is going to be a serial winner with international experience. Like, he said that out loud.
I don't think you can... there was no way they could have kept Greg.
No, so I do believe our next coach is going to be like a European top-flight dude somehow. If everybody in the world says no, then maybe they'll get their hands on Wilfred Nancy. I would be happy with that. But I think they're doing their best to not hire Steven Cherundolo. And no offense to Steven Cherundolo. I just think he needs a few more years to bake in the oven a little bit.
Needs a couple titles.
A couple more titles, maybe titles at a different club. To me, proving success at multiple organizations should be a huge.
He was the mayor of Hanover. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but when he was their coach, they got relegated. Or assistant coach, they got relegated or whatever. So, all right. We'll see. But anyway,
we should go
thanks for that, Bjorn. That
was fun. That was probably there were some highs and lows in this lineup.
But those have all the names that people have pitched and were very serious about. So I didn't throw any randos in there. I've gotten them all those names from different journalists and sources and people recommending them.
So some of them they made up.
Yeah, I think they made up most of them, but doesn't mean that's not the people U.S. Soccer is considering.
It's just hard. It's like what makes it's just the thing that I was going to say is like the appetite is for the big name, the European flair, the past successes and some glamour. But that is not historically, like I said earlier, that is not historically how these things work out. Like the big
and there's very little proven success. Really,
the Roberto Martinez's of the world have struggled in the international game. I mean, Didier Deschamps. There was always the sense that the French team was good in spite of him, not really because of him. And in this tournament, they definitely didn't look so good. And and when Argentina hired Scaloni, nobody knew anything about him. And
but Scaloni also falls in the Gareth Southgate Joachim
it's
category where it's like
the youth, the institutional youth person. Who
manages the world class players.
Who was part of the furniture, and then eventually sort of rises through the ranks. But I don't think there is anybody. Tab Ramos was that.
But we also don't have what I was saying is we don't have the players for that. Like managing Lionel Messi and managing Bastian Schweinsteiger and managing Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham is different than managing Paul Areola and
Paul Areola.
To go retro.
Paul Areola will never play for the national team again.
Because Scaloni and Didier Deschamps and Joachim Löw have won World Cups with their national teams, doesn't then mean they'd be great U.S. men's national team coaches.
No.
It's apples and oranges.
They picked them, but I think it's also there's a little bit of a gap. I mean, I was like, I couldn't even tell you who the youth coaches are. You can't even find that information on the website. So it's not like there is, they may have the next great thing in their ranks, but I think at this point, I think they've painted themselves into a corner in the sense that the people just demand something different. And my contention, as you know, as I've said before, is like it's not going to make that big a difference.
U.S. Soccer has historically done a really bad job of hiring youth coaches because they always just hire whoever the MLS dude who's available because they just got fired from their 6-month stint at Charlotte or whatever. You know, like the youth coaches used to be like Glenn Marnick and like when Ziggy Schmidt was between jobs. Like it was a thing. Jason Kreis was the U23 coach up until a couple years ago, I think. It was just sort of guys didn't get their hands on for these 2-year stints. There's no way if that's our system that those guys can then grow to become the best national.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the problem. The U.S. soccer setup is just not very strong overall. I guess that's why they had to hire Matt Crocker to even. I mean, they have to hire somebody just to hire somebody. Like
right,
like,
they did. And then all he did was rehire the guy they already hired before him.
The guy, yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right.
Another name that was thrown this morning by Tony Miola is Massimo Allegri. Again, it's just any sort of veteran dude who's out of contract who's available. Tony Miola was cold on Massimo Allegri, by the way. But I believe that is what we should expect. And for me, I'm very curious how that'll go. I think that'll be a fun watch. Jose Mourinho, right? He's unavailable because of Fenerbahce. But he's a kind of dude that probably would have been interesting maybe if he was in the mix. I don't know. I do confidently feel that the next coach will be one of the people we talked about tonight, I think.
All right.
I hope. And I hope it's someone like Poch. Or
Apologies to Hervé Renard. And, but yeah. I mean, this was a long list. If they find somebody that's not, it's going to be difficult to find anyone that's not on the list.
I like to be very thorough. So I want a full analysis. Not like those other shows where they spend 5 minutes talking about 2 guys.
Yeah.
We talked about
33
candidates today, I think. All right. Cheers, everybody. Next week, we're going to talk MLS. We're going to keep it shorter. And it's just what's going on in MLS.
All right.
All right. Cheers, bis dann.
Good night.